In a world where every person only gets one shot at attribute magic, an 8-year-old kid from another world showed up like a legend in the making. Once he got the top-tier magic power and the rare healing attribute, he got obsessed with testing that other attribute by picturing the exact image he has to master. He picked up every single attribute without even breaking a sweat. Like the rush of wind, the bite of fire, the surge of water, and the weight of earth. Health restored, wounds healed, and his whole body leveled up. This story wasn't some run-of-the-mill dungeon slog or a beat-the-monsters fairy tale. It's all about building something new and using his modern know-how to light up this world. Before I ruin the surprise, let's dive into the story. The MC lay sprawled on the floor after tumbling down the stairs, barely hanging on to consciousness. When the voices started shouting for him, they were way too loud. His head was pounding out of control, and he could only pray they'd finally quiet down. So who the heck is Leon? They've been yelling that name for ages, but it turns out it's just Ryasuke Ikigaya. Whatever. He's dropping back into sleep mode because this has to be a dream, and the second he wakes up, everything will be normal again. A few hours later, he jolted awake, stretching his arms like he'd just crushed the best sleep of his life, then froze. The room didn't look familiar at all. Where the hell was he? There's no way this isn't a dream. Tell me I'm wrong. Yeah, his university class had just wrapped up, and he booked it straight home. He stormed out of the university, and then what even happened next? It was all a blur, like something slammed into his head and erased the moment. No, it didn't add up. Next thing he knew, Truck-kun was on a day off, and people around him started getting hit with ice-cold memory loss. He snapped his hand to his head, frustrated, but the real panic struck when he looked down. Those weren't the hands he expected to see. Wait, aren't his hands way smaller than they should be? None of it adds up, and the second he really thought about it, that dream started calling him Leon. So could he really become Leon? Nah, that's absolutely ridiculous. And as soon as he said it, memories detonated behind his eyes. He clutched his head, staring like he'd just been hit by lightning, and demanded to know what those memories even meant as he finally became Leon. He dropped back onto his bed, the tension finally easing off his face, because according to Leon's memories, this isn't just another room in Japan, it's not even Earth. Right then the door to his room swung open, and a woman in an apron stepped in to see if he was awake and okay, Leon's mom, but somehow she felt like a total stranger to him. Ryasuke, no Leon. She asked if he'd fallen down the stairs, and the truth hit hard. She was genuinely worried. Leon choked out an apology and swore he'd be way more careful from now on. His mom's face lit up as she told him to come eat breakfast, but since he felt awful, he waved it off for now. She patted his head and basically said, "Then rest up, get it together until lunch." Once she was gone, Leon was left on his own, so now he had to figure it out fast. Did he really die back on Earth? He desperately wants to return, but it feels like that door is already locked forever. And the crazy part, he actually got into his first choice university, so it looks like he's about to say goodbye to his family and friends for good. Leon let out a shaky sigh and wiped his tears from his face. Then he snapped upright, eyes blazing with determination, because right now, he had to figure out exactly what was going on. He smacked his own face, trying to shake himself back to focus, and he snapped back to Leon's memories. Leon lives in the kingdom of Rathsregia, in its capital, Lazria, where his family runs a diner, his dad, Jean, his mom, Rona, and his little sister, Marie, making them a tight family of 4. When the diner's open, he's busy helping around the house. Then, on his days off, he dashes into the forest to play with the local kids. And listen, magic is real in this world. Magic doesn't come from nowhere. It's split into 6 wild attributes: fire, water, wind, earth, physical enhancement, and healing. Most people can only master one, but at age 8 you get hauled to the church for a magic test, like Leon, who just turned 8 and is being scheduled to face his soon. Man, Leon can't wait for what's coming, because his living setup is pure survival. A wooden bed frame stuffed with straw and a thin sheet, candlelight for illumination, and windows with no glass at all. It's way more primitive than Earth. Alright, so what's he gonna do next? He decides to roam the house and give himself a quick little tour, until he stops at the edge of the bed and freezes, because there, right in front of him, sit shoes woven out of grass. He slipped it on, and yeah, it's already kind of itchy, like clockwork. He can't believe this is the only shoe option on Earth, but for now, he'll just deal with it. First, he bolted for the door, trying to slip out and scan the hallway. He burst into the room, straight across from the one he'd been stuck in. But inside, just baskets stacked in silence, like it's nothing more than storage, because nobody was there. So he ditched the idea and headed down the stairs instead. Then he slammed down into a hallway packed with 3 doors. He shoved into the right side door first, and then he was all ready. He got greeted by a toilet straight out of his worst nightmare, just a raw hole in the floor. Leon's face darkened instantly, and he slammed the door shut without a single word. Then he lined in and peeked through the second door. This place is totally a dining room, plates, space, and all. Right at the very back, there was a door calling his name, so he went straight for it and explored it too. It bursts open to the outside, right where that well sat waiting. They scrubbed their body with a cloth right there, using a basin by the well. So where's the bath at? Because I'm not seeing one. All right, bet he charges for the next room next. Maybe Roanna's hiding in there. Leon yanked the door open. He pushed through the door to the kitchen, where his parents, Jean and Roanna, were cooking up a storm, and the moment they saw him, Roanna snapped. What's wrong? Leon bowed and apologized for the worry, insisting he was totally fine now. Thank God, Jean thought. Then Rona spun back and snapped at Jean to move, because if they didn't hurry, they'd miss opening. Jean threw an apology right back and dove straight into prepping the food. Leon grinned as he watched his parents, then turned to Roanna and asked about Marie. Since Marie was stuck cleaning the diner alone, Roanna asked Leon to go help, and Leon agreed on the spot. Roanna hollered for Marie that her brother was coming too, and Marie lit up because being alone in all that mess had been brutally tough. She marched right up to them, leaned in, demanded, "Leon, are you okay?" and lit into him for being so damn clumsy. Leon's brain went blank when his sister hit him with that ridiculously cute charm. He forced himself to remember one thing: don't pull off anything questionable, and right on cue, Marie kept shouting at him, snapping him out of his trance. Leon snapped his gaze aside like, "What's going on?" and Marie leaned in, checking him over. "So, does your head still hurt?" Leon told Marie he was okay now, yanked his sleeves up, and declared it was time to get to work. Marie narrowed her eyes at him, then finally snapped that he should go clean outside while she handled the dining area. Leon nodded and agreed. He cracked the book open, slipped out the door, and breathed easy, because right now nobody had a clue. The moment he burst outside, he stepped into town and instantly got hit with the loud buzz of people rushing around, all focused on their own lives. He blurted in pure amazement, then yanked a hand over his mouth fast, because yeah, this was incredible, but only in Japan. And yeah, this isn't just a new place, it's an entirely different world. So he's stuck here from now on, huh? If only he'd ended up somewhere better. Leon groaned, then slapped his cheeks like, "Wake up." Yeah, forget that. He had to get cleaning. Then bam, he collided with someone, and he toppled hard back onto the ground. The man he bumped into snapped, "You okay?" and immediately apologized. Leon stared up at him, baffled. He shot up in a full-blown panic, quickly too, and he bowed to apologize, asked if he was hurt, then carefully looked up, eyes fixed on the person in front of, and his stomach dropped as he spotted the man frowning, panicking like crazy on the inside. "Oh no," he answered politely on instinct, even though he's not supposed to be a kid right now. Leon's voice caught in his throat as the man checked if he was the diner kid, then pressed hard about where he learned to talk like that, leaving Leon stuttering, panicking, and not knowing his next move. He kept twitching, saying he learned it from some local, an old man, the kind with a harsh frown, and it looks like that's where the story goes. Turned into a grin before slapping his head with a gentle pat. Leon finally exhaled like a weight had been ripped off his chest. Frederick bumped into him, shot off another apology, and demanded to know if Leon was really okay. Leon nodded hard and apologized back. Frederick then introduced himself, and Leon did the same too, and the moment Frederick said he knew him, Leon realized why Frederick had figured out his family ran this diner. Before he left, he promised he'd swing by next time, and Leon lit up as he said he'll be waiting. Leon nodded to Frederick, forced a goodbye, and finally let out a shaky sigh. Did he really pull it off and cover his tracks? Wait, just a second. Now that it hit him, he couldn't stop wondering, how was he suddenly able to speak so politely, and why did he understand every single thing they were saying? So what about reading? He tried to scribble his name in the dirt, and yep, it looks like he can read and write just like normal. Wait, what is happening? He's not even from here, so this shouldn't be possible, but honestly, it's right there, and I'll take the convenience. Just then Marie poked her head out the door and demanded, "Are you done cleaning?" Leon snatched the broom on the spot and started sweeping, muttering that it'd take a little longer. Marie clocked the lie and thought he was slacking. He shot back that he wasn't, insisting he was basically finished. Then he waved her inside, but she didn't buy it, yet she finally let it go, and it snapped back into his head that opening time was almost here, so he had to hustle. She pushed back inside, and Leon wasted no time. He started cleaning fast, like he had to fix everything before anyone noticed. Right as he finished, a bell shrieked through the whole town. In this country, the church bells shout 4 times a day: morning, noon, evening, and bedtime. And right now they're blasting the noon bell. Leon's heart nearly leapt out of his chest when Marie burst the door open and demanded if he was finished. Then the noon bell rang, signaling opening time, and Leon told her, I'm done. Leon was seconds from stepping into the store when Marie snapped him back. He had to lock up the door first. He swallowed his pride, apologized fast, and hurried to do exactly what she said, no more standing around. At last, a customer slid into their diner and asked if they were open. Marie flashed him a warm welcome, took his order, and then brought his steak set steaming straight to his table. Then they waved in the next customer, who went straight for the steak set too. Rona shouted that it was ready, and Leon slid meals out to the customer tables. Then as soon as they were done, he swooped in, hauled away the dirty plates, and wiped the table clean for the next wave of hungry customers. And just like that, the whole day was over, finished, done, out cold. Today, Jean lit everyone up for a job well done, and they all finally got ready to eat. Roanna asked Leon if he was eating too, and he nodded, because after all that hard work, he was absolutely starving. After work, Roanna slid 2 steaks onto the table, ones that were left from today, and split them between everyone, and the kids erupted into cheers, begging to eat right now. She told them to wait in the living room while she set the table. After all that waiting, the moment finally hits, time to dig in and eat. Leon was totally thrown off by how casually people here say, "Let's eat too," like it's no big deal. He wasn't sure why, but it's convenient, so he just rolled with it. He tore into the steak with a hungry bite and went completely still as he couldn't believe how insanely good it tasted, like the same legendary steaks from Japan. So when he saw the bread, he nearly burst with excitement to dig in. The thing was so brutally tough, like chewing an ultra-hard baguette. Yeah, it tasted fine, but man, it was a nightmare to actually eat. That soup's not bad at all. It's just way too salty, probably because there's no dashi. Still, the stir-fried veggies are totally plain but somehow insanely tasty. If he keeps his expectations low, the food's actually pretty great. Then after the meal, Leon thanked everyone, sat back, and watched his family trade stories, laugh, and glow with each other. This isn't some fancy, luxurious dream life, but he's got loving parents and the sweetest little sister by his side. He's overjoyed. He's ready to cherish this family and grab hold of this brand new world, even if it's clearly going to demand a ton from him. Because Roanna and Jean needed to get ready for the night, Roanna shoved them to go play. Then Marie ripped herself up and slammed the table. She totally forgot she promised to hit the forest today with Nicola and Luke, and when Leon heard that, he froze in shock, so Marie snapped, asking if he forgot too. Leon shot back instantly, swearing he remembered, and insisting they had to rush and get ready right now. Marie practically yanked Leon upstairs, dragging him along so they could swap shoes, snatch their stuff, and take off before they even realize it. They headed to a shop run by their friend's family and grilled them about Nicola and Luke. Then the mom leaned in and promised, "They'll be here soon." Right then, Marie turned to the 2 kids and demanded answers about their uncle, Nicola's brother. "Where's Luke's dad? He's out chasing supplies," she said, but she's sure he'll be back before they finish their trip through the forest. Leon snapped his head toward the room the second he heard noises creeping inside, and right on cue, Nicola swung the door open. And right behind him, Luke, his little brother, was right there keeping pace. Once everything was ready, they all bolted out together to go pick fresh fruits. As Luke and Nicola strolled along, Luke grilled her about whether they could score a ton of fruit today, and Nicola had to admit the harvest wasn't ripe yet, so maybe they were out of luck. The second Marie heard it, her expression crumpled, and Nicola quickly blurted that they could still grab a few that are ready around this time. Before turning to Leon, seriously, he's really asking him. Leon told them they could grab raspberries right now asterisk, and it instantly lit up Marie's whole mood. They tore through the forest, chasing down every last raspberry they could find, and when they finally caught sight of some, went and ripped into the harvest, snagging a whole bunch. Nicholas pitched the idea of scarfing some down, right there. So they did, and once they did, it was pure magic, sweet, incredible, and honestly unforgettable. When Leon heard them praising him, he clenched his resolve and decided to give it a shot. But it turned out to be painfully sour in the worst way. They call it sweet, but for them, that word apparently means biting into forest fruits. That could work for everyone else, but he's already stacked with enough sweet knowledge to know better. Finding that sugar has turned into a full-blown emergency, Marie called him, shoved him into action, made him start chopping firewood, then head straight home. As soon as they rolled back in, Nicola and Luke's mom met them at the door, and Marie wasted no time. She asked straight up if Uncle Ben was here yet. So Mom shouted for her husband, and he burst out of the room right away. Then he crouched down and ruffled Leon's hair, only for Leon to groan that it was gonna get all messy. They threw a quick goodbye, then bolted straight for home. Before they could even step into the diner, Marie grabbed their attention and said Leon's been totally spaced out lately, like he won't answer her when she talks to him. Leon shot back, "That's not true," and swore he'd been listening the whole time. Then he gave a sharp warning. If they're saying it's fine, he better be listening properly, too. The two burst in and greeted their parents, who immediately fired off. How was your day? Marie lit up and swung her bag of raspberries like a trophy, and Jean praised her, then stopped, like there was more to come. Leon grabbed the bag, and with so many to go around, they'd all sneak some after dinner. So Leon asked if there was anything sweet they could use, and Roanna snapped back. Why? Why? Leon cracked a grin and said he just knew it would taste even better with something added, while Rona chewed on the idea, like maybe honey or sugar. But in their town, nobody sells it. Maybe the capital's central district has a few, but most shops there only let nobles and their little crew inside, so they'd probably be turned away before they even get a chance to buy it. And it's more than 2 hours by carriage, so she warned him to watch himself around nobles. Some are downright unreasonable. She doesn't think they'll show up here, but he still needs to be careful because nobles are terrifying. Leon thanked her, then ditched the idea of sweet ingredients for good. Then it hit him, another idea sparked, and it felt like a light bulb exploding above his head. He shot toward the counter and demanded permission to use the kitchen, because a wild idea for a raspberry dish just hit him. Rona didn't care, but Ron.s never cooked a day in his life. Leon just shrugged and said he'd watch them do it, and that somehow convinced her. Fine, let him cook. Then she told Leon to put his stuff away. With Marie jumping in to help, she hustles to get everything ready. When he finally got back, he found every ingredient he might need already laid out, perfectly waiting in a bowl. Leon thanked Roanna, who was already dying to taste his cooking, and even Jean couldn't wait. Leon stumbled back and flailed his hands, begging them not to let their hopes run wild, because those intense eyes were pure pressure. Roanna leaned in and asked if he needed anything else, so he grabbed flour and eggs for that recipe. Then she shot back, "What are those for?" But Leon didn't argue, he just told them, "Watch this, you'll see." With everything Roanna asked for finally laid out, she leaned in and demanded what he planned to do with it. All right, he's about to mash everything together, and it's got the smooth, flawless feel, like it's perfectly locked in. Rona blurted, totally baffled, "Why is it all gooey?" Leon grinned and said, "It's supposed to be like that, how?" But even so, you could see worry etched all over her face. So Jean practically pushed her to say yes, because Leon looked fired up right this second. Yeah, that part is totally true. Leon kept working at the dish, snatching up a bowl of raspberries like they were the next ingredient in his big move. When he clocked his parents, worried faces staring back at him. They thought the dish was already finished, but Leon fired back, swearing it wasn't over yet. And he just sat back to watch, then tossed in a handful of raspberries to the mix. And tada, batter's finished. Now all he has to do is cook it to perfection. Roanna dropped into a crouch and lit the fire with magic. Leon stared in total awe. This world felt unreal, like nothing he'd ever seen. Rona clocked that look on his face and snapped, "Hey, what's wrong?" Then she leaned in and asked, "Aren't you supposed to start cooking right now?" Leon swallowed his pride and apologized, because magic had him completely hooked. Roanna just chuckled and promised him, "You'll be using it too, once we hit the church soon." Before he even touched the stove, Leon demanded butter, and he spread it across the pan like magic, before pouring in the batter he'd made. If he remembers right, he's got to flip it the moment those bubbles start popping up. He flipped up the pancake and peered underneath. Yep, it was already cooked through and golden. So now he has to flip it, but he's doing it all wrong. Right then Jean shot Leon a question. Could he try? Leon tossed him the spatula, and Jean flipped it like it was nothing. Dad's amazing. Roanna didn't know how this was going to turn out before they cooked it, but it came out perfectly. Leon flipped the pancake, lined in, and waited for it to finally finish cooking. The moment they finished, they hit play, and then boom, they served it straight onto the table. Everyone stared. Jean praised Leon's cooking and demanded to know where he learned it. Yet Leon only giggled like it was all a secret. Then Roanna called Marie, and the whole crew dove in to eat. Leon stared at his family as they dug into his pancakes, terrified they'd hate every bite. But they absolutely loved it, because that batter turns wonderfully chewy, the flavor hits hard, and the raspberry sweetness pops so cleanly it's honestly shocking. Leon grinned wide, soaking in the fact that everyone's actually loving it, and then, bang, the church bell thundered again, slicing through the air to announce that night had finally fallen, and yeah, it's already this late, so there's no more waiting, time to kick off the evening shift. After an hour, Roanna praised him and Marie for crushing it, because at night, most customers only swing by for drinks and snacks, so their shift wraps up in about an hour. And they always share dinner together, just the two of them. Marie raved about the scrumptious raspberry dish Leon made earlier, and Leon cut in fast. It's called a pancake. He named it, but once he tasted it, the flavor and texture hit completely different. Marie craved another bite, just one more taste, and she'd be fully satisfied. So he promised he'd make it happen another time, once he went back and picked a whole bunch of raspberries again. When they finally hit the sheets, Leon let out a quiet chuckle because Marie was already dead asleep, like she'd been wiped out by pure exhaustion. Even though it was only one day, everything exploded. Plus, he's completely wiped out. He whispered a good night to the sleeping Maria, then crawled into bed, and just like that, Leon's brand new life in another world kicked off. He froze when he realized the room around him didn't belong to him at all. After remembering he'd been reincarnated as Leon in another world, he finally snapped out of it and calmed down. It wasn't a dream at all, this was real, and it hit like a gut punch. His day rolled on like it always does, sharing a meal with his family, like nothing in the world could possibly break the calm. Their mom, Roanna, grilled them about what they were doing that day, and Marie said she'd hit the market stalls with Luke, then turned to Leon and asked if he wanted to come too. But he couldn't ignore it. He had plans to crush today. After the meal, Leon flashed them a goodbye, and then chose to head straight for the side that sat opposite the forest. He surged into the heart of the plaza, weaving past the stalls where Marie had been talking. He stumbled into some seriously cool little shops, and rushed in to explore every last one. Looks like that whole area is packed with workshops everywhere. He stopped dead in front of a shop that only had a sign, letters, and nothing else. He tore through the words, grinning like crazy, ready to discover that it was a whole magic artifact workshop. Could it be a machine? He can't stop the urge to find out, so he sneaks a peek inside the door. He yelled for the owner again and again, yet nobody answered. Called out even louder. Right then, a door deep inside creaked open, and out he shuffles, an old man, grumbling nonstop about how loud it is, like, "What is wrong with you?" Leon leaned in and asked what he wanted, and the old man blinked in shock when he heard Leon was actually hunting magical artifacts, and asked if he could actually read the letters on his sign and understand what they said. Leon froze under the old man's piercing glare, heart pounding, as he scrambled to figure out what to do next. He spun some excuse that someone nearby could read, but even he knew there was nobody like that around. Wait, could it really be that rare? For common folk, it's basically unheard of. The old man jabbed a finger at him and asked, "So you learned to talk like this too? After all this time using formal words, because the way he speaks them, it's like it's always been second nature." Which leaves him staring into the void, desperate to figure out who he truly is. Sweat poured down Leon's forehead as the old man stared at him like he was hiding something. After a while, the old man finally let out a tired sigh, like he'd been thinking the same thing. Leon couldn't help but wonder, "So you're a noble?" The answer wasn't that simple. Not quite a noble, but a semi-noble, basically as close to a commoner as it gets. That's what they call noble kids who aren't the firstborn. Their titles might be fancy, but they're stuck fighting for a place in the world. Leon couldn't stop wondering, if you weren't the firstborn, could you even rise to nobility? Or was it just a cruel lie? If they manage to earn a huge merit, they'll be granted the title Noble Knight, but it lasts for just one generation, and the whole system is shockingly well crafted. Even if you're born noble, it doesn't lock you into a safe life forever. So when he finally opened his eyes, he flinched hard, because an old man was just staring at him like he'd seen his whole fate. The old man roared with laughter, and Leon, kid or not, somehow grasped all that complicated stuff, and it stunned him. He never expected to run into a child so sharp and interesting at his age. But don't go flashing something like that around. There are way too many people out there with bad intentions. So once Leon caught himself, he asked, "Didn't he say he was into magical artifacts?" Leon nodded, like, "Yeah, totally," and right there, he realized he was about to lose the main thread. He demanded to know what a magical artifact even looked like, because he'd never seen one in his life. And yeah, he had no clue. Magic artifacts don't just get bought by anyone. Only nobles trade them, and even their materials are worth a fortune, so their prices aren't about to drop anytime soon. Leon crumpled to the floor, crushed. There's no way. He actually thought he'd finally found something that mattered. He spun back to the old man and demanded, "What are those materials exactly?" The old man answered, "Magic stone and magic iron." Magic stone is a clear, glassy gem that soaks up magic and brings it to life, while magic iron is a special kind of iron that reshapes itself the moment magical energy flows into it. They carve it from magic iron, slam the magic stone right into it, and boom, this is how they forge that legendary magical artifact. Yeah, it's basically a machine. Leon wants one badly, so he asked where he could get it. But then the old man dropped the truth on him. His dream was crushed because he said he couldn't. Because every mine that dug up magic stones and magic iron belonged to the state, and every forge that turned them into weapons was state-run. Leon couldn't even wrap his head around it. He crumpled onto the table, sobbing his heart out, because he's trapped and he knows it. And it's not just sugar. Nobles also hog the magical artifacts, like they own the magic itself. Hold up, what the heck am I standing in right now? He lifted his head and demanded to know why this workshop was even here. That's the whole reason this place hits different. An old man once worked in a state workshop here, but he just retired not long ago. Even so, he refused to stop forging magical artifacts, so instead of retiring for good, he opened this workshop, and Leon couldn't help asking if it was that simple, but the old man shut that down fast. For the title he earned through his incredible achievements and inventions, they finally granted him permission to open his very own workshop. Now he spends his days freely dreaming up new magical artifacts, so this workshop has to be one of a kind. Leon's face lit up as if the moment itself smiled at him. Coming here was pure luck. Then he grinned and asked the old man straight up, if he had the money, would he sell to them? Money? Then the old man shot his head side to side and bowed in a regretful apology, begging not to waste something that valuable, but Leon won't back down. He's just the kid of diner owners, a total nobody, but tell me, how's someone like him supposed to get a magical artifact? The old man mulled it over, then thought, maybe there's still a shot, if I can make it to the Royal Academy. Leon couldn't stop asking if even commoners could get in, and the old man shut him down with one brutal truth. Pass the exam, and anybody's allowed inside. Tuition and school supplies are free, sure, but he's stuck living in the city center, where everyone's a noble, and that fancy life comes with a price. Rent and socializing both burn money. From what Leon heard, the school runs for 5 years, starting at 11 and ending at 15. The entrance exam hits at the end of winter, then classes kick off in spring. And as for studying, he figures he'll handle it. Now he's got one mission left: grab the money and make it count. Leon shot him a question. Could he sell him that magic artifact idea of his? The old man nodded, but he made it clear. Whether the idea sounds good or not, the registration and the usage rights would end up in your name. So tell me, are you really okay with that? Leon didn't even blink. He agreed to the patent on the spot. Then it hit him. He had to race back before the night bell rang, and the old man promised he could come again another day. Before they left, Leon introduced himself, lined in, and asked the old man's name, Marcel. 4 days after Leon said his goodbyes and stormed out of Marcel's workshop, he returned, ready to jump back in. Mac and Marcel rushed to greet him, then ushered him inside right away, because he was dying to get a look at the magical artifacts. Leon trailed Marcel into his workshop and gasped the moment he saw the magical treasures crammed inside. Then the magic iron and magic stones Marcel promised hit him like a spell. Leon lit up and asked if this was the workshop, and Marcel simply nodded, pushed him toward a seat, and said it was best to explain it right here. Right above their heads hangs the most famous magical artifact of all. Leon was so stunned he nearly blurted out its name right then and there in the modern world. Right before Marcel even grabbed his mouth, he blurted, "It's a light sphere, and inside it there's a magic stone packed with healing power. Once healing light magic gets poured in, it keeps glowing for a full 30 days. Then to shut it off, you just pull out the magic stone. That switch looks like it's ready for a machine's mechanism to flip it. Maybe one day they'll even let Leon give it a shot, because Leon can't help wondering what other kinds exist out there." Marcel leaned in and told him all about the fan, the running water system, and the flush toilet. He shoved it in front of Leon, and Leon's frustration flared instantly. That's how useful stuff gets locked up, so he can't help but seethe with envy for the nobles all over again. These days, people mostly use these for, now brace yourself, because we're about to talk about the reward. If the idea hits the mark, he'll slip Leon a single gold coin. Then if it turns into a magical artifact registered at the royal palace, he'll shell out 5 platinum coins. Leon just stared into space, completely zoned out, like he wasn't even *****ing there. Marcel could see he didn't get what money meant, so he broke it down. This world has 6 coin types, from iron to platinum, and if you gather 10 of the same kind, you can trade them in for 1 coin worth more. So if they're saying 1 iron coin is worth 10 yen, that's 100,000 yen, and 5 million yen after that. But honestly, that's chump change, Marcel burst out laughing. Isn't that way too much to be bragging about? Because he's a noble, he somehow racks up insane wealth. His talent for magical artifacts is unreal, and every one of them blows everyone's mind. Leon shot him a grateful look and promised he'd whip up new magical artifacts, all right, then tossed out that the reward would be sent straight to his bank account. Except, wait, he doesn't have one. Leon then demanded, wait, can a kid really pull that off? And the whole idea instantly turned into a problem they'd have to fix themselves. Marcel said, I can do it if you've got the money. He warned that going solo would set off alarms, but if they roll together, they'll be totally fine. Marcel told Leon they'd need to head to the city center, so he asked, "When's a good time?" But Leon shot back, "Can I ask my parents first?" And it was totally fine. Then Leon would be back. He said goodbye, grinned, and thanked him for everything that happened today. Marcel shot him a wave and kept watching as he turned and strode off. What's he gonna say? This kid is seriously fascinating. When Leon finally made it home, he marched right up to his parents and declared he wanted to head to the central district. Roanna looked reluctant to let him go, and honestly, who could blame her? He was heading off with a stranger, and suspicion was practically written on the air. Leon hurried to calm her down, saying Marcel was an old workshop owner, the real deal, and even invited him to visit today. With his mom still wearing that doubtful look, he pressed her. Was it really not allowed? Eventually, she gave in because he's already 8, but warned that if he ever felt it was dangerous, he should bolt straight away to the nearest guard station or shop. Then she leaned in and told him, "Let's hit the church after lunch tomorrow, because it's safer if he can squeeze out even a tiny bit of magic." All right, Leon will track down Marcel before he steps out tomorrow, because once that's done, he'll finally be able to unleash his magic. Early the next morning, Leon dashed into Marcel's shop and told him the good news. His parents finally gave the green light for him to go to the central district tomorrow. Marcel grinned, thrilled by the news, and said they should meet here first. Then Leon stormed out, only to come right back. Rushed back home for lunch. After everything was finally taken care of, Roanna shoved Leon into gear and told him to get ready, while she stayed behind to tackle the dishes. Then the 4 of them broke into a sprint toward the church. Spotted the buildings lining both sides of the church. Leon finally blurted out to his mom, "So what are those buildings?" The ones they called the healing center for the orphanage, the same kind every church had right as they stepped inside. No one even greeted them, just asked what they wanted. Jean stepped in and took the lead, pushing to have his son Leon's magical power measured. The nuns pointed the way, and Leon followed hard, heart hammering, doki doki. It's finally happening. Leon trailed right behind her as she slipped into the room. Now it's time, those magical powers are about to be tested. She told Leon to press his hand onto the magical artifact in front of them. Once he does, his magic will get yanked out on its own, so he'll know exactly what it feels like. Leon obeyed. Magic power blasted out of him like it had finally broken free. It blasted out of his hand straight into the device. When it finally reached that point, the nun checked his magical power and froze, stunned when she saw it hit 5, the absolute peak. She couldn't believe it. That's insane, and now they're finally about to uncover what his attribute really is. There are 6 different kinds of magic attributes. He can test the tiniest spell of each kind. Whatever one actually takes is his attribute, and Leon decided to start with healing first. So she told her, try the light spell. All he had to do was stretch out his index finger, picture the tip flaring bright, then whisper, light, and make it feel like real daylight pouring in when you crack open a window. In magic, the image is everything, so if he pours magical power into that image, the spell snaps into action, and once he masters it, he'll cast it without a single chant. Leon shut his eyes tight, followed her advice, and started chanting light, then snapped his eyes open and gasped as glowing light burned on his fingertip. It actually worked, can you believe it? I'm blown away. Magic is absolutely mind-blowing. That means his power is healing. Once he figures out magic for real, it's pure practice, so he can't stop picturing and imagining. Leon learned that healing isn't just one trick, it mends wounds and purifies away the grime. And if his magic power ever runs dry, he'll drop into unconsciousness, so he's got to stay sharp. With magic power level 5, he just might mend even ugly fractures, so Leon can't stop wondering if it could also wipe out illnesses. But she snapped back, no way, it only mends wounds. He can't shake the fear that maybe he truly can't cure a single illness, but people insist magic hinges on your image and your magical power, so maybe there's still a chance. Then he leaves the room. His family met him outside, and Marie tore over to him in a rush. He tells them his magical power is a 5, and his attribute is healing. Like, are you kidding me? That's straight up amazing. Then he'll be okay, even if he takes a hit. So Rona tells Marie to stay sharp and avoid getting hurt anyway. And just like that, they headed home and threw a celebration like nobody's business. With Leon finally alone, he threw himself into practicing his magic. First up, the first light. He couldn't stop wondering if he could resize that light and crank up the brightness, so he imagined it hard, and the light actually obeyed. The light's size and color shifted exactly the way he'd pictured, and then, no chance, no ritual, he just grabbed the casting and willed it into existence. Leon grinned, he nailed it. magic was real, and honestly, it blew his mind, even if he still had no clue how it worked. Next, the one skill he craved more than anything, heal. He was finally ready to master. But he's got 0 injuries to prove it, and the worst part, he can't stand pain, but there's no way around it, so he grabbed a knife, which sat right there on the table, and when he grabbed it, it sliced a tiny cut into his index finger. If he can't heal this, it's over, pure nightmare. Leon shut his eyes, pictured the wound closing, and just like that, it healed. It fully heals when he imagines the healing process in vivid detail. He slashed the healing time and magic drain, and if he can picture it clearly, he might even stitch up bigger wounds or cure deadly illnesses next. But right now, he can't test it. He can only pray he never has to find out. After that, he's going straight for purification, the spell that wipes the filth clean. He snatched a filthy box, slammed his chant into the air, and watched magic scrub it spotless. Now it looks brand new, so maybe he can use it on his own body too. He's going to try. He cast the spell on himself, and he was blown away by what happened. His whole body feels brand new, and yeah, this might even fix the bath problem for good. Alright, while he's at it, he's also gonna tear through this room and clean it up. He shot his hand up and screamed purification, but the moment he tried, his legs buckled, he staggered, and he crashed to the floor, knocked out cold. He jolted awake on the floor, and it was obvious he'd overdone it with his magic power. He's gotta know exactly how much magic he can handle, because getting back on his feet could take way longer than he thinks. Now that he thought it through, he realized he'd skipped the other traits, so he couldn't resist the question, what would happen if he actually tried them? He gritted his teeth and went for it. First, he shouted spark, and a tiny flame flickered to life above his fingertip. His eyes went huge and he blurted, wait, what's happening? Because if they're only supposed to use one attribute, then how is this even possible? So what if he can tap into even more attributes? Yeah, he'll test it right now. He snatched an empty bucket, channeled water magic, and whoosh, the thing filled up with water fast. Next comes wind earth, then they hit you with physical enhancement. Leon stood there, totally frozen in shock, because now he can use all of them. Water, earth, fire, wind, then healing and physical power, all packed into one deadly set. Long ago, the 6 nations didn't fight. They lived in real harmony, like the world was holding its breath in peace. Then the Fire Nation struck, and just like that, everything changed forever. Only the Avatar, master of all 6 elements, stood a chance, but when the world needed him most, he vanished. After a full century, we finally cracked it. We found the new Avatar, reborn into a brand new world called Leon. Jokes aside, there's no way he should let anyone else find out, because the second they do, they'd probably drag him in and turn him into a test subject. He has to stay silent, but how long can he keep swallowing this alone before it crushes him? Whoa, hold up, that's it, Marcel is here. If it's him, he relaxes the moment he realizes he can finally talk to him. Alright, you wanted to make ice, so you started thinking it through like, wait, isn't ice just water that freezes when you give it the right push? Ice forms when water molecules stop moving, right? And if you'd paid attention, you'd know that already. He only looks like plain water, but trust me, he's got to stir it up and ignite it. He yanked the bucket hard, and just like that, the water froze solid into ice. Leon grinned like he'd just cracked the universe, imagining he could build a refrigerator from his work. Then a dinner call cut through the moment, so he tore through the mess he'd made, fixed it fast, and sprinted back inside. Next morning, Leon shot awake early and bolted out to meet Marcel. Because today's the day, he finally heads to the central district, and he even has his allowance in hand. When he finally reached Marcel's shop, the old man wasn't anywhere in sight, no sign, no movement, like he vanished. Maybe he'd shown up too early. So Leon slammed on the door and shouted for him. The door swung open a few seconds later. Marcel even blurted out that he was pretty early, and you could tell he couldn't sit still 1 second. Leon had to wait while Marcel wasn't fully ready yet, so he asked him to hold on for a moment. A few minutes later, he burst back outside, blurted out an apology for the wait, and they finally took off together. Marcel jabbed a finger at the carriage stop and said they'd snag one earlier than planned, so they could finally breathe when they got there. Leon's stare snapped back to him. "What's wrong?" Marcel demanded. Leon blurted, "Nothing," then turned straight back to the front, but the moment he looked at those outfits, he felt the divide between rich and poor in his bones, even though he's living in the capital. He asked how much the carriage fare cost with only a few copper coins, then froze when they told him it was basically just 1 coin. Marcel burst into a chuckle, waved it off and promised he'd cover everything except the account setup, and Leon opened his mouth to protest. But Marcel cut Leon off fast, saying he had no kids or grandkids, so seeing Leon happy makes him feel like the happiest man alive, like this is just an old man's selfish little wish, and Leon should take it with gratitude. Leon shot him a grateful thanks, and Marcel just let out a lazy chuckle. Boom, it clicked in his head from yesterday. If it's Marcel, then maybe he really can tell him what's up with his attribute. The two close in toward it, moving as one. The carriage roared toward the central district, and Marcel paid 2 copper coins for them, and Leon stepped forward excitedly, practically vibrating with anticipation. Inside the carriage, his first ever ride, he froze for half a second, then slid into the seat and shot a bright greeting at the couple beside him. Buzzing with excitement, he couldn't wait for that carriage ride. District in hand, they sprinted straight into the central district. Leon crumpled down, clutching his throbbing back like it was on fire. He totally underestimated the carriage. His bum was killing him. The seat burned, and the road jiggled like it wanted him to suffer. Marcel finally noticed and asked what was wrong, then shoved him on to keep going. So Leon trailed right behind him, still kneading his sore lower back as they marched through town. Leon spun around in pure awe, staring at the massive houses they passed as they rolled through the streets. He fired off a question, where were the nobles' mansions, and Marcel pointed straight ahead, saying they were farther up. This was the baron's turf, and the higher your rank, the closer your mansion sat to the royal castle. Even among nobles, the title can make everything wildly different, and honestly, being noble doesn't look like an easy life at all. Because they were headed straight for the bank, Leon demanded to know if there were any shared carriages around, and Marcel snapped back that there weren't, because nobles rolled only in their own private rides. But wait, do commoners even get into the bank? Yeah, but it's easy when every single one of them already owns their own carriage, and then Marcel suddenly announced, "They're here." Leon stared ahead, and pure awe hit him like a wave. They stared in shock at the beautiful building, standing right in front of them. They pushed through the door and strode past the soldiers like they owned the place. He stood outside like a living wall, guarding every inch without blinking. Right as they roll up to the front desk, Marcel blurted that they'd come to open an account for Leon and demanded, right then and there, if they could handle it immediately, while the staff stared at Leon in total confusion. And he figured a bank account wasn't even necessary, like, what's he gonna use it for? And besides, accounts get shut down after 3 years of doing nothing. But Marcel wouldn't budge. He insisted, it'll be fine. The staff had no choice, because everything hinged on what came next. But to make them fill out the form, Leon carefully filled it out, every detail perfectly in place, and shoved it back into the staff's hands, who dared him to pour a slice of his magic into a crystal ball after checking the form was flawless, so it could trap his magic signature for recording. Leon followed his orders, and the crystal ball burst into a bright glow for a beat before settling back to normal, registering his magic perfectly. The staff then told them to hold up for a moment. They all paused, then dropped onto a nearby bench, Leon firing questions at Marcel about the crystal ball, a little device that can read magic for identity verification. About 100 years back, someone uncovered it inside a church swallowed by the forest, and the records say there were around 100 of them. After digging deep, they learned every crystal is tied together, and magic lets them spot specific people, so they started using them in banks, and Leon couldn't shake the feeling that these things were crafted by someone. But people swear they're divine relics, at least, that's what they insist. Divine relics are mystery objects with power that never wears out. No breaks, no decay, and even the ones people uncover sometimes still don't know what they're actually for. So what if there's really a god watching over all of this? Just as they were about to dive deeper, the staff stormed back and shoved Leon's bank card into their hands, cutting the conversation off instantly. All he had to do was flash it at the counter, prove who he was with his magic, and then boom, he could deposit, withdraw, or transfer money. If he misplaces his card, getting a new one will hit him for 3 silver coins, so he'd better keep it close. Plus, even opening the account demands a full 1 silver coin. Leon snapped back in shock at the price, while Marcel stayed icy calm and just paid. Leon trailed right behind him and demanded to know if he was truly okay footing the bill for something that pricey. So wasn't he the one who promised he'd cover everything today? Yeah, right there in their agreement, that promise was sealed. He doesn't even have to deduct it or anything. And yeah, he needs to land a case fast or he'll lose his card. All right, then it's time. They're rolling out to sightsee in the central district. Marcel looped around them, firing off explanations for Leon whenever they hit a new detail. Then he pitched the idea, lunch first, no debate, because the city's packed with fancy restaurants, sleek cafes, and even diners for the everyday crowd. Leon pointed them to a diner, but Marcel shut that down and demanded a stylish cafe instead. Truth is, he'd rather hit up some restaurant, but the dress code was a total problem. Still, they could just buy outfits for it. Hearing that, Leon snapped and demanded a cafe instead, refusing to waste a single extra dollar. When they burst into the cafe, they took their seats at the table. The waitress guided them to. She slid the menu over, telling them to call her the moment they finished ordering, and Marcel asked Leon what he wanted. Leon just waved it off and said he needed a minute to scan the menu first. There's regular toast, French toast, jam toast, and sandwiches piled up everywhere, plus some weird ones he's never seen before, and a few he's never even heard of. After chewing on it for a long time, he finally went for a sandwich and French toast. Marcel asked what he wanted to drink, so Leon stared at the menu again, shocked that even drinks come with their own lineup in the Central District. They set out black tea, green tea, and fruit juice. And I swear, wait, did he just spot the green tea? This place totally screams Japanese, and that mystery gnaws at him. Are they using the same tea leaves, or is something bigger going on? What the hell is happening here? He can't exactly ask anyone, so he forces the thought to shut up in his head. Then he whips around to Marcel and demands black tea for their drinks. Marcel waved the waitress over and barked their order like she was on a mission. As they wait for their food, Leon leans in and asks if noble cuisine is miles ahead of what commoners get. Because ever since the war ended over 10 years ago, it's been exploding forward, and lately, brand new cooking methods keep popping up left and right. And now they can import sugar too, so sweet dishes show up everywhere, and that means even everyday meals are finally getting way better. Even so, that's still ages away, Leon groaned through gritted teeth. It's the nobles again. Jealousy burned in his chest. He wanted nothing more than to be one of them. First, he has to break into the Royal Academy. Right then, their orders finally came crashing in, so they got to digging, shovels flying, dirt flying even faster. Leon clocked how Marcel handled the silverware. Same moves, like the rules of this world never even changed. He sliced off a chunk of bread, soft, not like the tough one he'd eaten earlier, and took a big bite. That food was unreal. Every bite hit like fireworks, from the juicy chicken to that sauce, like everything tasted impossibly perfect. Next, he took a bite of the French toast, and boom, pure sweetness hit like lightning, unbelievably delicious, that sugary goodness you just can't stop chasing. Dude, he can't believe food just hit him this hard. It's got him grinning, and even the tea tastes incredible. Yeah, meals really matter. Marcel asked, was it good? And Leon hit him with a huge, it was amazing. He looked at Marcel like, thank you, I finally got to try these foods because of you. Marcel couldn't wipe the smile off his face because seeing Leon happy is all that matters. Then they huddled up and decided to hit the shops because they urgently needed a card holder from a leather goods store. They stepped in and the staff snapped into action, asking what they were hunting for today. Marcel's eyes lit up because he wanted a neck-hanging bank card holder that could stash a little cash. The staff slid over a bunch of card holders, ones that do that exact same thing, and told Leon to pick his favorite. The moment he got his hands on it, Marcel dropped 5 silver coins for it. Yeah, it was insanely expensive. As they step out, Marcel leans in and tells Leon to slide his card into it so he won't lose it. Leon does exactly that, and then he thanks Marcel. Marcella told him it was totally fine, no one else to spend on, so the money just piles up, and from now on he'll even have Leon earn for him instead. So Leon promised he'd do his best to think of something, but Marcella insisted there was no need to rush, and they should start heading back. Leon nodded and agreed. Then, as the conversation rolled on, something shifted. He suddenly stumbled, and right as he was about to crash into a girl when someone lunged in front of her to block her path, and Leon slammed right into that person instead. He dropped hard before he could even catch himself. Then the stranger rushed over, asking if he was okay. But when Leon finally lifted his gaze, confusion hit hard, and he blurted, "Wait, isn't that Frederick?" Frederick clocked him from the diner too. Leon bowed fast, apologizing like crazy for crashing into him again, and Frederick waved it off, saying it was his fault this time. Just then, the girl closed in on them too. He had to ask what was happening, and whether he knew Leon. As Frederick talked, Leon stared, stunned. Who was she? Because she was so insanely cute, she looked like a little doll. The girl introduced herself as Martine, then hurriedly apologized for crashing into him earlier, and asked, with real concern, if he was okay. Leon cut in and introduced himself, insisting he was the one who should apologize, because he was the one who stumbled, and Jim went, "Wait, what? Didn't Frederick call her Sama earlier? Does that mean she's sitting at the very top of the social ladder?" Marcel closed in and demanded what happened, and Leon shot back right away that he'd accidentally crashed into Frederick. Marcel was mid-apology when Frederick snapped his name. Frederick even demanded, "Are you the Marcel I know?" So Marcel stepped in and introduced himself as Marcel Connolly. Martin leaned in close to Frederick, murmured something under his breath, then stepped up to greet Marcel, who nodded in agreement. Then she spun to Leon and told him to call her something more casual. She couldn't help wondering if Leon was a commoner. Then she pressed him about why he was hanging out in the Central District. Leon nodded and told her that Marcel had been showing him around. This is his first time in the Central District, and the whole place is buzzing, so alive, so fun, and even the food blows him away like he can't believe it. Martina totally agrees, because she says wandering the town is her favorite thing too. Then she asked what he'd eaten, and he grinned, French toast. It tasted so sweet and perfect that happiness washed over him like a warm wave. Martin finally gets it. She's obsessed with it too. Honestly, she had one wild request. She wanted to be friends with him, and neither of them had any clue how it spiraled into this. But they're now stuck awkwardly, sitting on the... Martin's the only one at the table, and he's grinning like a spotlight just hit him. A few minutes ago, she turned to Leon and asked him to be her friend. But Frederick stops her right there and tells her, "You can't just walk up to a stranger and demand they be your friend," and she gets it. Yeah, but every commoner kid she's run into so far won't even meet her gaze, except Leon, who actually looks her in the eye and talks to her, and that single moment makes her beam with pure happiness. And doesn't he even know Marcel? So why is he still acting like they're nothing but dangerous people? Frederick's trying to make him understand, but it's not landing. But Martin slammed the moment shut before he could even try, leaving him utterly speechless. When she realized he had nothing left to say, she pushed the idea. Let's meet at a cafe, somewhere cozy, so we can finally get to know each other. And now there they are, right inside the cozy cafe she chose. Sitting together like this is about to change everything. Martin shattered the silence, blurting out the question, what kind of bond did Leon and Marcel have? Marcel runs a magical tool shop on the edge of the Western royal capital, and Leon shows up to visit. She's got it, but the questions won't stop, like whether his place is nearby. Leon gives a firm yes, then explains his parents actually run a diner over there. Yeah, Martin would totally hit that place another time. But Frederick cut her off again, because she'd promised she'd only go as far as the Central District. Yeah, that's true, but still. So why won't she get to visit the new friend she just made's house? Leon caught the heartbreak on Martin's face. He figured nobles must be swimming in friends, throwing fancy tea parties left and right. Am I wrong? So what's he supposed to do when a girl gives him that kind of face? Like she's asking for comfort without saying a word. He doesn't know the whole story, but he swore to her that she could come with zero worries. Then Martin lit up, holding on to the hope that it really was okay. Frederick blurted that none of this was okay, then spun to Leon to apologize, because Martin isn't in any shape to go out so freely. Just by looking at her, you could tell a girl around Leon's age can't freely choose who she calls her friend. And he can't shake the thought of giving her a breather, so he pushed the idea and suggested that. Martin perked up and spun toward Frederick to ask permission. She wanted to head to his home for hands-on training, since she'd never stepped foot in a commoner's house before. Frederick still shut it down. But she cut him off mid-sentence and snapped, "My father always says it's you. To run this place right, you've got to understand the lives of the common folk, because that's the only way good governance is even possible, right?" Frederick had no answer, so she seized the moment and pushed, insisting she'd go to that training no matter what. Finally, Frederick caved in and let her go through. Then he got a grateful thank you that landed right in his heart. So tell me, how did he even meet Leon in the first place? Frederick said he just ran into him while he was heading out to the outskirts of the capital. That snapped something in Martin. He pouted hard, and now he's stuck sneaking out into the Central District like it's normal, while the rules still feel totally unfair. She'll forgive him, just bring her souvenirs from here on out. Frederick agreed, then cleared his throat. Marcel spun to Leon and demanded why they were showing up in the Central District, and Leon said they were just sightseeing. So Marcel snapped that since he'd never been to the city center, Leon was riding with him. Frederick brushed off his explanation like it was nothing, then pounced on a whole new topic, food, asking whether the cafe had bruschetta, and Leon admitted they did, even though it was clear he was thrown off by the sudden pivot. Frederick ordered 2 bruschettis, while Leon sat there with a red face, convinced Frederick was totally locked in on food. Right then Martin called for a Chihuahua creme, and the second she caught Leon's gaze, she flashed him a quiet smile. Was she actually thinking of him, right there, choosing kindness instead of being careless? It wasn't just how she looked. Her personality is straight up incredible too. Leon couldn't stop wondering what kind of dish could possibly be a Chihuahua cream. It's Martin's favorite meal, because once they taste, they can swap instantly. He grabs a bruschetta, and she goes for the chow a la creme, and when Leona agreed, she shot back her thanks with a bright smile. The moment the food finally showed up, Frederick insisted you try the bruschetta. Then he dove straight in and tasted the dishes first. Leon nodded at Martin like it was safe to eat, but he just stared at them in pure shock. Was this some kind of poison test? Sure enough, the nobles really do have those weird little customs, so he went for whatever he was going to eat, took a bite of the bruschetta, and it was absolutely delicious. Those tomatoes and cheese hit like magic. The flavors were so perfect they felt downright exquisite. Frederick leaned in for their verdict, and Leon, along with Marcel, swore it was absolutely delicious. Frederick's face lit up with joy because he was thrilled his pick hit the mark. Martin thrust a plate into Leon's hands and dared him to try the chola creme, too. Leon snatched the plate and stared down at the dish, 2 pale boiled eggs, but there was a mystery topping glistening up top. Was it olive oil? He'll understand the moment he takes a bite, because it hits sweet as candy. This is dessert. Martin leaned in and asked, is it honey? Because it tasted simple, but the sweetness hit the exact perfect spot. Leon devoured it happily, shouting that it was insanely delicious, so good he felt like he could eat forever, and Martin beamed because it matched his exact taste. Honestly, she wants more too, but the rules only let her take one a day. Right after they finished their food, Martin leaned in and asked if Leon would someday take over the diner. He can't stop thinking about it, because he's gunning for the Royal School entrance exam, even though deep down he has no idea whether he'll actually pass. Martin's jaw dropped. He's going to the Royal School too. All right, maybe there's still a chance. She promised him he'd be fine, and Leon just awkwardly let out a nervous laugh, brushing it off, while Frederick pressed him on why he wanted into the Royal School. Leon admitted that spotting magical tools at Marcel's workshop made his eyes light up, and he couldn't stop thinking they were incredible. And then he heard it. Once he graduates from the Royal School, magical tools will be handed to him, and Frederick couldn't help thinking he was totally interesting. Most commoners only dream of climbing higher or stacking big money. Martina nodded along, and the very first guy she met was Leon. Every kid she'd met before drifted too far away to even talk, or their whole "please pick me" agenda was so painfully obvious she couldn't buy it, because all that non-stop fawning or desperate begging for favoritism always crashes and burns. Leon couldn't stop asking himself if something was weirdly different about him. But Martin slammed the brakes on his doubt and swore, I'm not. She's into Leon way more than those other people. And when Leon hears it, he snaps his gaze away, cheeks blazing, because those innocent eyes hit him so hard that even his 20-year-old mind can't take it. Frederick cut into their conversation and blurted out that he wanted to study, and Leon snapped back, yes, saying he can read and write, but he doesn't know what the exam will look like, so he needs study materials. Leon's skills left Frederick stunned. Didn't he need someone to teach him first? Since Leon already mastered reading and writing, Leon threw his hand over his own mouth in disbelief. He blurted out something he didn't need to say, shrugged it off like there was no way around it, and then admitted the truth. Yeah, someone really did teach him. Frederick pressed, asking where he learned to read and write. Was it the same person who drilled him in honorifics? Yep, his grandfather did all of it. Frederick let out a heavy sigh, because the luck on his side was unreal. He wasn't just taught honorifics, his grandfather even taught him to read and write. Man, this grandpa of his must have been a beast of a teacher. Leon only smirked, fully committed to that story, but still, everyone's watching him like a suspect. Why? Martin demanded, wanting to make sure it was okay to hand Leon some of the teaching materials. And Frederick nodded, right on cue, just before Martin even got the chance to say the same thing. All right then, he'll stock up on Leon's materials and haul them to his house the next time he finally gets a day off. And Leon lit up with joy, thanking him right away. Frederick and Martin needed to head back for the day, but Martin begged to stay a little longer. Frederick shut that down fast, since they'd already blown past the allotted time, and if they lingered one more minute, they'd lose the chance to get the next permission. When Martin heard that, she finally snapped up, nodded, and agreed to turn back, talking about the day she can run to the diner and Frederick swore he'd bring the materials next time. As soon as they vanished, Leon finally let out a long, relieved sigh. He stretched his arms wide, glanced around, and realized the cafe was totally empty. Wasn't this place packed just a second ago? Then he shot a quick look at Marcel who stood up and demanded to know where the other customers had vanished to. Marcel couldn't shake the feeling that, just minutes after they walked into the shop, every guest vanished, quietly swapped out for guards. Leon figured Marcel must know those two, so he shot back, who are they? Lady Martine Rislasia and Lord Frederick Townsend. Leon clocked that surname the second they came into view, and yeah, it's exactly what he feared. Martine isn't just anyone, She's this country's very first princess. Leon's soul nearly ripped out of his body, then got thrown right back into the modern world through reincarnation. That wasn't just high status, she was practically royalty. Meanwhile, Frederick hails from the Duke Townsend family, third son of the former Duke, and at just 18, he's already locked in with the royal guard. People swear he's so gifted that knighthood's basically written in the stars, and every noble in the room knows exactly who he is. Leon's heart slammed as panic seized him. He had no idea they were this important, and now he couldn't stop thinking. Would they rip into him for being disrespectful? Martin even shared food with him, so what was he supposed to do next? And the real punch to the gut, no, it wasn't fear anymore, it was timing. Those people were heading to their diner soon. What was Leon going to do? Marcel tried to calm him down. Looks like they've decided they like him, and even Martin quietly warned them not to call her a princess. So doesn't it make way more sense to just play it cool and act normal? Seriously, tears streaked down Leon's cheeks, like he can't help it, even while he swears he can't do this. And wait, is it even okay to unload all of this on him? Marcel just nods, saying yes, then tells him to quietly reveal their identities as they slip out. Honestly, they're incredible people, and now he gets it. They're kind, too. He'll tell himself not to stress over it too much, and honestly, that's the best move. Marcel's side, he's wiped out today, so he's deciding to head home early, but he's still relieved Leon wasn't stuck alone, and Leon agreed. He's genuinely grateful Marcel showed up and stayed by his side. 3 days later, the Central District was chaos. Yet Leon did what he always does. He shoved it out of his mind and tried not to think about it. Still, the moment he tried to keep his power hidden on his own, unease clawed at him. So today he showed up at Marcel's workshop to finally talk. Marcel watched the day roll by, convinced Leon would finally get it, and still couldn't shake the question of why Leon showed up at his workshop today. So he asked straight up if he'd been cooking up a new magical tool. Leon told himself, "It's gonna be fine," and then shot back that it was all about his attribute. It looks like he rushed off to get his mana measured, and Marcel shot him a question. So what you get? Turns out his mana was a 5, and his attribute was healing, and Marcel's jaw actually dropped, because a 5 is the absolute highest you can reach. Marcel clocked Leon's expression, then blurted, "What's wrong, man?" Leon scratched the back of his head, and when he tried those other attributes, it hit. He could use every single one. Marcel's eyes nearly popped out from pure shock. He shot to his feet and demanded, "Is that really true?" To prove it, Leon tried everything he had, one move after another. Marcel's jaw dropped. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He kept blurting that it was the apostle, and Leon was left totally baffled. "Wait, what does that even mean?" he shouted, calling out to Marcel. But he kept ignoring him until he was practically yelling, and that's when Marcel finally clocked him and answered. Marcel bowed and apologized, but Leon cut him off fast, because he wasn't the apostle at all, just Leon, plain and simple. Marcel snapped back that mastering every attribute made him the apostle, but Leon cut him off fast, telling him to calm down. After a bit, Marcel finally slumped back into his seat and choked out an apology for losing his temper, because he truly believed only the apostle could wield every attribute, so he got way too carried away. Leon demanded to know what an apostle even was, and Marcel snapped back that people swear it's someone the gods send, someone who can wield every attribute and knows everything. They swear there's a record from centuries ago, but ever since then, nobody has been able to pull off even 2 attributes, so yeah, someone like that really did exist. Leon stared at his own palms, heart pounding as he wondered, am I really the apostle? He's got every ability in his grasp, and he's been reincarnated, so yeah, he carries knowledge, but it's only half-formed and incomplete, and the wild part, he's never even laid eyes on a god, or even knew they were real. So if that's true, he's not the apostle, and the gods never sent him. Marcel clocked it before the seal went down. If the apostle came back, it could have reignited everyone's faith in a heartbeat. Ever since that apostle showed up centuries ago, belief in Lady Micheline has kept shrinking, wave after wave, until the faithful were barely left. He's convinced they need way more faith, because somehow the god of this world looks an awful lot like Lady Micheline, and yeah, the church already said the same thing. Leon asked, so how powerful is the church now? And Marcel just snapped his head and shook it, because it's basically gone, it's state-run, and the folks inside aren't religious workers at all, they're just government employees. We didn't expect it to be this good, because once the church is basically state-run in this world, you can bet it won't leave room for any messy religion versus politics showdown. Then he swallowed his pride and apologized for ruining Marcel's expectations, and Marcel waved it off with a calm smile, then apologized right back for dragging the conversation off topic. Marcel couldn't stop wondering, how could he wield every attribute if he wasn't the apostle? Leon's mind raced with the same question, so he decided he would finally confront him and ask. Until now, nobody but the apostle has been able to handle more than 2 attributes. Right, Marcella nodded and warned Leon, don't tell a soul. Wait until you've got allies with real power and trust. If he lets his power slip, foreign nations and vicious nobles will come hunting. And if it goes too far, they'll even drag his family into the crossfire. So until he finally has the power to protect his family, he'd better lock that secret away and never let it slip. So yeah, he needs to storm into that royal school and fight for a government post, because that's how he earns the people's trust. And if his talent hits hard enough, he could land a coveted spot as a royal aide or even rise to nobility. To pull that off, there's only one way: graduate from the royal school. After that conversation, then Leon lined in and spilled the secrets of his magic tools. He started daydreaming up a fire magic cooking tool, and alongside it, a chilled, boxy contraption to keep food preserved. They've studied those 2 spells for ages, but nobody's pulled it off, especially fire magic, because it melts magi steel and shatters way too fast. Yeah, that actually tracks, so insulating materials could be the key. Wait, no, don't tell me that yet. Magic stones won't even twitch unless they connect with magisteel, and there's no way Leon can pull that off with what he knows right now. As for that cold box, they can't make ice yet, not even a little. But that's not the problem, because Leon can summon ice at will. Marcel's eyes widened as he blurted, how'd you pull that off? Leon grabbed a cup to test it himself. First, he unleashed water magic and summoned a sheet of water so close to freezing it felt like winter had arrived early. Then he nudged the water with a spark and taught him how to freeze it instantly into ice. Marcel leaned in and asked, can anyone here use water magic to pull this off? Leon had modern knowledge, so he could picture it all and build it. So if they broke the idea down, a ton of people in this world could probably do the same. Leon tried again, threw himself into everyone's shoes from this world, and he pulled it off. If they've got the mana and the imagination to picture water that snaps into ice the moment it's stimulated, they can cast it. So yeah, if that's the plan, they'll drag in someone who can actually do magic and give it a shot. But the real question is, has he picked the shape of the magic tool yet? That's right. Leon pictured a tall, boxy shape, iron walls, sturdy shelves, and a spot to stash the ice-making tool, so only that section needs to be fancy, sealed with a door to trap the cold. That's a refrigerator. What do you think? Marcel thought his idea was genius. Magisteel is so rare that they'd better not waste a single drop. So if you build it like that, doesn't it turn into an ice maker instead of a refrigerator? He's right. Leon jumped in and suggested it. I tried skipping the box entirely and only limiting myself, but I kept pushing for a simple magic tool that could spit out ice, an ice maker, and Marcel said that idea was way better and suggested Leon make one himself. Then Marcel slid over a magi's deal and a pile of mana stones. With a mana level of 5, Leon can handle magisteel for sure, so he laid out the method. He has to touch the magisteel, picture the exact shape in his head, and pour his mana into it until it reshapes into what he imagined. Mian took a shot and went for it. First, he pictured the exact shape he wanted, then poured his mana into it. And boom, somehow, it totally morphed into a whole new shape. Magisteel is straight up incredible. So what's the deal with this all-purpose miracle material? Leon told Marcel he was done, and when Marcel finally stared at the magi steel, he shot back, why'd you shape it like this? Then he noticed it, 2 holes carved for magic stones. Leon went big on the ice so it wouldn't melt in a hurry, because if the center didn't get the right jolt, it wouldn't form right either. So he blasted both the middle and the edges with wind magic at the same time, sealing in a perfectly shaped block. Marcel told him that no one has ever stuffed 2 different magic stones into one magic tool, until now, and it feels like trying to spell out common sense to him is a total waste. So yeah, they decided to jump in and give it a shot. First, Leon jammed the wind magic stone into place. He checked the wind in the box. Good news, it was blowing out right. Then he tossed in the water magic stone. Water poured from the bottom, and the moment the wind hit it, the flow snapped into ice. He called Marcel, fired off the news that it's finally done, and Marcel couldn't believe his eyes. This thing screams summer-proof food storage. And the ice quality is even better than before. The craziest part is how it's made. Anyone with a magic power rank of 5 still has to team up with someone of a different attribute to pull it off, which means this product is going to fly off the shelves. They'll need a water attribute mage to take a rank 5 magic test and prove they can conjure ice, then get it filed at the royal palace. Leon's gut twisted because he feared someone would try to snatch the idea before it even hit the records. Marcella leaned in and told him, "Don't sweat it, I'll ask a friend you can trust." She even said nobody else would ever dream up something this crazy, and she promised to drop the reward straight into his account, so he'd better keep an eye on it. Leon let out a breath of relief and poured out his gratitude. Meanwhile, 3 days back at the Townsend estate, Frederick stormed down the hallway like he had something to prove. Stuck there, you can't help but wonder who Leon really is. When Leon looked back on their first meeting, he suddenly started talking like someone far above a commoner. Only rich merchants who trade with nobles talk like that, and at the time he pretended to swallow his excuse. But it feels way too suspicious. Could he really be a spy from another country? And if that's true, then even a kid getting education like this wouldn't be surprising at all. But even if he had his people dig into him, they couldn't find a single weird thing about his family or his past. And somehow nobody around him talks like that, so who taught him? Right when he was about to head to the diner and try speaking with him again, he suddenly bumped into him right there in the central district. Leon might be a spy, quiet, careful, acting natural so nobody clocks him, but Martin threw a wrench in everything, making it impossible for Leon to move. Why would she even try to befriend someone like him? And somehow, the four of them ended up slipping into the same cafe together. Then Martine insisted she wanted to visit Leon's family diner, and in that split second, his quick thinking proved no ordinary commoner could have reasoned their way there like he did. But if he was really a spy, his face would give him away in every beat. His expressions are way too vivid, his thoughts too easy to catch, and even his table manners are suspiciously polished. If he was trying to blend in as a commoner, it'd feel downright wrong. A spy is supposed to blend in quiet, invisible, but this guy keeps standing out without even noticing, and if he's doing it on purpose, Frederick can't figure out why. Since Leon's investigation turned up spotless, he probably isn't a spy, but then where did he learn that perfect speech, sharp behavior, and fluent literacy? That's the real mystery, and it's driving everyone crazy. But here's what's crystal clear. This guy can get things done, and the ducal house might end up relying on him one day. Next time he delivers the materials, he's gonna dig deeper. Then he should square things with his father and the others, all while sharing a meal with the former Duke Richard Townsend, and Frederick rushed in with news about Leon, so Richard snapped, "Why didn't you shut them down?" Even if Leon was skilled and probably not a spy, Richard made it crystal clear. Martine couldn't set foot in Leon's diner, too risky. Frederick thought the same thing, but he just didn't have the strength to stop her, and if he gets permission, he'll escort her with absolute hair-trigger caution. Richard sighed, no point crying over what's already happened. Then he leaned in and asked about Leon. Frederick leaned in and told him straight up, Leon wants to get into the Royal Academy, and he thinks they should let him commute from their estate to dodge all the eyes, especially since their eldest is enrolling this year too. All right, Richard might be willing to go along with it, but before he says yes, he insists on meeting the guy at least once. A few days later, Leon and his family were right back at it, running their diner like nothing could stop them. And right when it's about to end, we're right on the edge of the finale when, just as Leon was about to finish his greeting, someone burst in. Then he froze the second he recognized the person. Frederick, he barreled over to greet him, blurted out what brought him here today. Turns out he'd come all the way just to talk to him about something. Then he dropped his voice and leaned in, begging Leon to keep his noble status a secret. Leon nodded, let him in, and guided him to a seat. Frederick insisted on lunch first, snatched up his order for a steak set, and left Leon pacing while the food finished cooking. Marie closed in on him and gently but carefully asked, "Is Frederick your friend, and are you okay?" She must have felt uneasy, so she switched to polite words, and Leon jumped in right away, telling her, "I'm totally fine and I'm a friend of yours." So he'll step in and deal with Frederick personally, while she takes care of the rest of the customers. Right then, Roanna burst out of the kitchen and snapped to Leon that the steak was ready to hit the table. After he wrapped up the steak set, Frederick called Leon over and called him to tell him the truth. He finally opened up to his family, and they lit up like, "We'd love to meet you." So he decided to invite him to dinner tonight, and Leon's eyes popped open in pure shock. He blurted out that he should ask his parents first, and Frederick nodded, saying he'd go too. But Leon wondered, wasn't his nobility supposed to stay hidden? Sure, in public it is, but if he's taking responsibility for him, then he's going to have to come clean to his parents. Because if he doesn't, they're going to start worrying like. Leon gets it, but he still can't shake the feeling they'll worry the moment they hear it, even if Leon finally tells them. He wasn't wrong at all. His parents just stood there, completely stunned, after they found out what happened. Frederick told him that he'd been talking about Leon with his family the other day, and the moment they heard that, they said they'd love to meet Leon at least once, then urged him to invite Leon over for dinner. He shot them an apology for the worry, said it was just his family's plain old curiosity, so nobody needed to stress. Roanna and Jean stared at each. Leon still had to be tended, so he bowed low and begged Frederick to make sure Leon was safe and cared for. Frederick promised them he'd make it happen, and since it's already getting late, they'll keep him overnight and they'll be safely back home tomorrow, so no one has to worry. Then he snapped his gaze to Leon and told him they're leaving this place. Leon nodded, agreed to it, and then hugged his parents tight as he said goodbye. They hopped into the carriage owned by the ducal house. Frederick's secret travel code, that's what he uses when he slips around unseen. Leon stared at everything in total shock, because the seats were so plush, nothing like the carriage they rode when they went to the central district. And right on the carriage's ceiling, a magic tool hung like a secret. Then he spun toward Frederick and blurted, "So tell me, why am I invited to your house exactly?" Frederick told him to stop shaking. His parents just wanted to meet him, but then he blurted, "Wait, my dad's a duke, right?" "Me?" Frederick snapped back, then he explained it all. His older brother took the title, so their father is the ex-duke right now. And yeah, in this kingdom, once the son hits 15, the title gets handed over, and it's tradition for him to serve at the royal palace. But even so, he's still considered high-ranking, so Leon can't help asking, what's the real reason they want to meet him, and why does he care about Leon so much? Frederick opened his mouth, then stopped dead, like the thought hit him at once. He stared, weighed it all, and finally let out a heavy sigh. So he forced himself to tell the truth so Leon could finally get it. At first, Leon thought he might be a spy from another country, but after digging in and talking to him face to face, nothing about him looked off. The doubt vanished, yet his brains and behavior were still way too sharp for any commoner's child. So the Duke's family looks at it like this: win him over, bring him to their side, and everything clicks, so that's exactly why. So that's it, he really was under suspicion. Leon had zero clue anyone was investigating him, but maybe this mess could turn into a chance to win people over. He couldn't believe it, those doubts got cleared, and Frederick actually held him in high regard, which made him feel incredibly grateful and over the moon. Once they finally reached the Townsend house, Leon's jaw slammed open at how. Just look at it, it's gorgeous and absolutely massive. Albin the butler stepped up, greeted them both, and Leon booed fired right back with a return greeting. Frederick told him to speak up with the staff the second anything came up, since he was an invited guest. Then Frederick waved him off and said goodbye. They'd catch up again at dinner, and for now the maid would escort him straight to his room. Leon thanked them, but inside his chest was pure panic. How was Frederick already gone? Being left alone in this place felt insanely unsettling, and the maid stepped up, introduced herself, and said she was an aunt, then told Leon she'd take him straight to his room. Leon bowed low and introduced himself. Then his aunts broke into smiles and urged him to lift his head. But since he was an honored guest, he didn't have to bow to the staff. Yet Leon believed he still should, because in his mind he was nothing but a commoner. But the aunt snapped that, since he was the guest, he shouldn't pull that stunt, so Sheila escorted him straight to his room. Leon couldn't shut his mouth as they toured the mansion. Massive staircase, blazing chandelier, and fancy paintings everywhere, like even the flowers were dressed to impress. That noble's mansion is straight up unreal, like the gods just dropped a divine visit right in front of our eyes. They slammed to a stop in front of a door, and Ernst waved Leon in like it was a secret entrance, because even the guest bedroom is straight up unbelievable. It feels like stepping into a luxury hotel. Ernst tells Leon to take a seat, because she's about to lay his whole schedule out for him. With dinner still about an hour away, he's gonna hit the bath first, then they'll dress him up in fresh clothes. Leon heard her words and shot back, asking if they had clocks here. Ernst just smiled and said, yes, and then explained that every room in the Duke's estate has one, plus the servants even carry this exact model around with them. So yeah, turns out the world really does have clocks. Leon demanded a look at the servant's clock, and Ernst immediately shoved it into his hands. The minute hand, hour hand, second hand, and every number from 1 to 12 matched the exact kind of clock he already knew by heart. He asked if this place runs on a full 24-hour cycle, which would mean it's 4:05 right now, and Ernst answered with a straight-up yes. Can he read clocks too? The way he speaks politely feels totally effortless. This kid is genuinely impressive. Most servants the estate hires can't even pull off those two things at first. Yeah, Leon totally got lucky because someone nearby taught him, and he's honestly still stunned. This whole world is weirdly familiar, like it shares the same bones as the one he came from. She pointed you toward the bathroom door, and her gesture told Leon he could go in and get clean with her help. Once inside, Leon dropped into a chair while on. He rubbed shampoo through his hair and asked how Leon felt, and she lit up because Leon was feeling amazing, and then rinsed the shampoo out completely. Then she leaned in and asked, so you're gonna wash your own body? And when he answered that he would, she stepped outside and chose to wait there, eyes fixed on what might happen next. After everyone vanished, Leon grabbed a towel and started rubbing himself down, then tried to heat the bathwater with water magic, but the best he could do was room temperature. Still, they rinsed with plain tap water after soaking, and once he was done, Leon blasted the water to the perfect warm level with magic. Since there's no high-tier magic gear around, they shoved their hopes onto assistants who can actually use level 2 magic or higher. He cupped water in his hands and rinsed the soap off his body, and he couldn't stop thinking, why would anyone need help just to bathe? Still, without a shower, it'd be brutal to manage alone. He let out a heavy sigh and sank into the warm water, sinking into the tub like pure relief, because honestly, a bath feels unreal. The nobles get to soak every single day, and it drives me crazy how unfair that is. Must be nice. Once he finished, he burst out of the bathroom in a robe, and Ants was already waiting, ready to fix his hair and help him into different clothes. But Leon just stared, totally lost, because he hadn't brought a thing. So she told him Frederick had already set out clothes for him to change into, right after they fixed his hair. Leon slipped into the clothes Frederick picked out for him, then Ants herded him straight to the dining hall, where the whole crew was on edge, waiting for him to finally show up. The moment he stepped in, he bowed, introduced himself, and poured out his gratitude for being invited to tonight's dinner. Richard shot Leon a warm welcome and told him to take a seat. Then he stepped up and introduced himself. Catherine gave birth to their second son, Julian, then right on the heels of that, their third son, Frederick. They've also got an oldest son and daughter, but both have already moved out, so forget introductions for now. For the moment, just sit down and enjoy that meal. Dishes Leon would have never even gotten a taste of if he hadn't been pulled into this dinner or served. After the meal was finished, Richard finally brought up the thing he'd been dying to talk to him about. He actually had the guts to ask Leon something, real quick too. Right now, the nobles in this country are tearing into two bitter factions. Once you believe cooperation beats status every time, and you back giving talented commoners and nobles the same shot, you've found your way into this faction. The other guy insists that the ancient noble bloodline must be kept alive, and that the gap between nobles and commoners should be locked in tight, no exceptions. Centuries ago, an apostle built this nation system and hammered in the laws. Nobles got privileges, but they had to protect the common people's basic life and safety, and the big rule was simple: don't control them, coexist with them and back them up. These rules built their whole country. But lately, people's faith in Lady Michelin has been crumbling, and now even more voices swear they don't have to obey these rules anymore. Leon leaned in, listening hard, because there it was again, apostle. And it's all because of those rules that the Duke's family treats a nobody like him with real respect, so he can only bow his head and thank the apostle. Richard kept talking. Frederick told him Leon is an insanely capable commoner, and now he'd seen it firsthand, so he fully agrees. He won't even bother asking where Leon learned all of it. No, Richard doesn't just ask. He begs for Leon's power and even drops to a bow, pleading with all his heart that Leon will join their faction. Still caught off guard by the gesture, Leon interrupts and tells him to lift his head. So why does he belong to a faction that shields commoners? Doesn't it feel normal for nobles to crave power instead? Richard thinks if the nobles keep stacking power while commoners get shoved further into the dirt, the whole kingdom is bound to unravel. In the end, it's always the ordinary people who forge a nation, and most of them are commoners. Leon stared at him like he couldn't believe his eyes. I thought it was surprising, but if Richard's got that kind of mindset, then yeah, maybe he's exactly the person we can trust. He's not sure how much he can truly help, but if there's a way he can make himself useful, he's ready to jump in. Richard wants him to get into the Royal Academy first. Then, once he's crushed the exams and graduated, Richard pushes for him to work inside the royal palace. For that plan, it'd be way smarter for him to commute from here. Leon didn't want him traveling all that distance, since he could just rent a room downtown instead. Richard told him to stop holding back, because this would make it crystal clear that he wasn't alone, and that powerful backing was shielding him. So tell me, did Leon already take that magic aptitude test? Yep, and he confirmed his magic power score is a solid 5 with his affinity. He froze right in the middle of his sentence, like something had just slammed into him, but somehow still proved that his power isn't limited to one thing. He masters every attribute, and couldn't stop wondering, was he a holy apostle? Leon shot it down. Sure, they had things in common, but he'd never even laid eyes on a god. During the magic assessment, Richard demanded to know his attribute, and when they told him it was healing, his whole world shifted. He told her to reveal just his healing affinity for now, because they're keeping his full power locked behind secrecy for the time being. Leon nodded and agreed. yet he'd already spilled the whole thing to Marcel earlier. Marcel told him he could share it with people he trusts, but only if he keeps it locked up for now. Since he hasn't told his family yet, he's left wondering if he can safely say anything. Richard nods and tells him to make them promise, so they can keep it all locked down and stay silent. And he'll dispatch someone to fill Frederick in, because Leon is set to attend the Royal Academy and stay at the estate. That's it for today. Story S over for now. He was betting everything from here on out on Leon. Leon bowed his head, overwhelmed with gratitude for it all. Frederick gave Leon a deep, heartfelt thanks for throwing his strength behind the Townshend house. Still, he couldn't believe it. Somehow, he'd been handed every single attribute. Leon insisted he'd tell his family first and begged Frederick to wait until after he was done explaining, and Frederick agreed without hesitation. He asked if Leon was headed back tomorrow, and when Leon said yes, Frederick jumped in, "Take me with you." Then he said he'd sit tight in the carriage while Leon finished up with his family. Once he agrees, Leon can already picture the shock on his mom and dad's faces. He just prays they don't panic or start thinking he's some kind of freak. All right, they can't stay here. Frederick needs to hand him his study materials, so it's time to move to another room. He slammed the books onto the tables and told him those were exactly the subjects he'd have to grind for the Royal Academy entrance exam, mostly reading, writing, math, and just a touch of basic history. Leon cracked open the first book and took a hard look at it, and realized it's basically first-grade reading level, so he's not gonna waste a single moment studying it. His second book was math, and once he flipped through it, he realized it was all about the basics: addition, subtraction, simple multiplication, and division, and completely ditched it again, and just like that, finally, the third book. He's only got a shaky handle on the older stuff, but this one dives way deeper into the recent history. He's been itching to learn more about this country anyway, so yeah, he has to hit the books and study this one. When he told Frederick he'd only borrow the history book, Frederick's jaw dropped. Was that really all he needed? Leon nodded, insisting there was nothing left to hide anymore. Frederick leans in and tells him, "Good luck." And she tells him Lady Martine just locked in the date for her visit to his home. It was locked in for exactly 1 week, from today 10 a.m. sharp. Wait, that's sudden, isn't it? Leon thought it would drag on way longer, but Frederick immediately apologized to Leon. Leon told him that Martin wanted to leave the second he could. Leon won't have to prep a thing. Martine's dying to see his life exactly as it is, plain and commoner style, and she even told him she wants to play with him. Leon stared at the sky, brain racing on what to do next. He always ends up lounging in the woods or hanging around street stalls, or maybe, just maybe, he should fire up cooking. Could they really run off and hunt wild raspberries, then flip those pancakes like it's the best day ever? But those pancakes were torture. If only he'd had sugar at least. Hold up, if he wants to, can't he just grab it in the city center? He leaned in and told Frederick everything, then immediately asked if it was truly okay. Frederick nodded, convinced Lady Martine would absolutely love picking raspberries and cooking them too. When they asked Frederick if sugar in the food was okay, he smirked and told him he didn't have to cling so tightly to a commoner's way of life. So how much of Leon's truth should he spill to his family? It's totally fine if people learn later that Lady Martine paid a visit to his home, but if the news leaks early, it could spell disaster. So for now, they'll claim she's just a distant relative of Frederick. Only 3 people are stepping into Leon's house: Lady Martine, Frederick, and a maid ready to help them. So it'll look like just that little trio inside. But trust me, there are guards lurking everywhere, and everyone there has already been briefed about Leon's situation, so Leon can finally breathe easy. But Leon finally got it all, and he's thanked him with real meaning behind every word. After that nerve-wracking day, Leon flopped onto the bed, barely able to breathe. He was over the moon that the whole Townshend family was so kind to him, like they'd have his back if he helped their cause, and he also made sure Lady Martine would be smiling when she comes next week. Nerves were crawling up his spine, but excitement was right behind them. He had to make sure he treated her right. And with that, our boy dropped off to sleep. After a little while, he yawned wide, then snapped his eyes open. He realized this wasn't his house at all, and the truth hit him like a jolt. Then it hit him he'd shown up in these towns and estates, and they'd let him crash there, no questions asked. But when morning came, nobody had really laid out what he was supposed to do. Ants greeted him with a bright good morning and asked if he slept well, and Leon shot back the greeting, then, with worried eyes, asked if he'd maybe overslept or anything, and Ant said, not at all. Every person here grabs breakfast in their own room, then sprints out for work like it's already decided. They've already done everything for him, so there's nothing for him to stress about. Master Frederick told her to call him the moment Leon was done getting ready, and Leon was already hoping he could step out and say hi to the other two. Anson told him, Madame Catherine is here, just greet her before you head out and that's enough. Then Anson said, now change into those clothes. These clothes are a gift from the master. He pushed Leon to wear something nice, but not too flashy for a commoner, and the second Leon put them on, he still stood out like crazy. Still, he thanked the maid with a grin that lit up his face. Right after Catherine and Frederick greeted him with a good morning, Leon shot them a grateful look and thanked them again for everything they'd done that day. He also couldn't stop thanking Madame Catherine for pulling him into the invite. Good news, she's getting what she wants, and now she's praying they can actually stay on good terms from here on out. After that, Frederick and Leon climbed into the carriage and rode off in a rush. Frederick leaned in and asked Leon where he wanted to stop in the city, because getting out was a headache and no one could waste time. Leon fired back, the bank, the watchmaker, and a stop to buy sugar. Frederick shot Bank a shocked look and demanded, did you already have an account? Bank nodded. Yep, Mr. Marcel helped me set it up, and the old man's been paying him ever since for helping craft magical tools. Honestly, that's a huge deal. Every bit of attribute magic gives you a massive upper hand when you craft magic tools. All right, they're stopping at those 3 places. They rushed to the bank first. The second he pressed his hand to the magic ball, the receptionist shoved over a note with his current account balance. To his total shock, he's standing there with the balance of 10 platinum coins. Next time he runs into Marcel, he better get answers, because this is way too heavy for a kid to handle. Then he snatched a single gold coin, shiny and worth its weight in silver, and tucked it away. Next up is the watchmaker. Only nobles and their people get in, so they stride in first to set up the arrangements. Thoughts raced through his head, then he finally talked to the man. He marched in, opened the door, and let them through. He grinned at Leon and asked what kind of watch he wanted, and Leon said he was after something simple, tough, and easy to carry wherever he goes. Even though it cost a fortune, Leon felt pure relief. He finally had a watch, and now he could tell the exact time down to the second. After that, they grabbed sugar and sprinted back to the carriage. Next, they're heading straight to Leon's house. If they made it out alive, Aunts and Frederick would stay put inside the carriage, waiting for Leon to finish his talk. Leon's family lit up with relief when he finally returned, then bombarded him with worried questions, like something bad must have happened. But tell me, why is he wearing all those fancy clothes? Like he doesn't know that if they ask for payment later, they can't possibly afford it. Leon told his mama she was safe and sound, like everything was okay, because it was just a gift. But tell me, why would Noble risk everything like that? And what made him get invited to that dinner party in the first place? Leon paused for a second, knowing he had to spell everything out to his parents the right way. He paused for one heartbeat, swallowed hard, and then told his family, this was big and it couldn't wait. They all dropped into their seats first, right before I even sat down. Before Leon could even tell them that his run-in with Frederick yesterday was pure luck, Frederick already figured out he wanted in at the Royal Academy, and he swooped in to lend Leon his study materials. Leon first caught wind of the Royal Academy from Marcel, the same guy who took him to the Central District, because Marcel crafts magical tools, and the moment Leon said he was interested, Marcel let him dive into a whole stack of them. The old man leaned in and told him, if you head to the Royal Academy, you'll learn about magical tools, and once you graduate, you'll finally live surrounded by them for the rest of your life. That's why he's dead set on getting into the academy. Magical tools, yeah, the fancy gadgets nobles brag about, right? Leon nodded along with his father, practically buzzing as he said they were insanely convenient and totally cutting edge. For a split second, the parents were completely stunned, speech gone, thoughts frozen. Roanna broke into a smile because she could tell her son was crazy about magical tools. His eyes practically glittered, and right then, Leon got his entire family's full support. But can he really make it? They can't just teach him at home, right? Leon jumps in and tells them not to stress. He's got study materials, and Marcel's going to help him too. So yeah, why is Marcel going so hard for him like that? These guys were just plain commoners. Leon grabbed his courage with both hands for revealing he could wield every one of those attributes, blowing his parents' minds, though his little sister just took it in stride. He couldn't believe he could master every attribute, so cool it blew his mind. Then Leon thanked her, told her to keep it quiet, and made it clear this had to stay locked inside their family. Mastering every kind of magic is so rare it's practically unheard of. If the wrong people got their hands on that secret, they'd put everyone in real danger. That's why the noble begged to borrow his power, and swore they'd back him up in return. Does his mom and dad think he's creepy or straight up scary? The two of them grinned at him and said, flat out, nope, we don't. They were just completely stunned, that was it. Every single element blew them away, and they couldn't hide how proud they were of him. Tears welled up in Leon's eyes as he looked at his parents, overwhelmed with gratitude. But wait, doesn't the Royal Academy start at 11? That means Leon's about to bolt from home in no time, and yeah, it's gonna feel lonely. Still, if a noble family like that clocks his talent and steps in to help him, then he's not alone. There's nothing to worry about. He's got to go all in, got it. Now that everything finally made sense, Leon leaned into his parents and said Frederick was here to spill the whole story, and to ask if he could bring him inside. Frederick stepped inside, and Leon's parents dropped to their knees, greeting him with pure respect. Frederick snapped, sounding shocked by their move, and told them they didn't have to keep being so formal. He showed up out of nowhere, then quickly apologized for the surprise visit, and he even apologized for yesterday, for taking their son out without a word. Today, he's here to lay out what happens next for Leon's future. He already heard the rumor, Leon can use every attribute, and now they're pushing him to flex that power for the Duke's house, which is exactly why they're demanding he attend the Royal Academy. He knows it's already done and he's genuinely sorry, but he still begs for their approval, because if it's Leon's wish, they'll stand by him. Frederick lit up at the news and told them straight up that Leon was headed to the academy, and that they wanted him to stay at the Duke's estate, sending the parents into instant panic as they demanded, "Is that actually true?" Frederick nodded and said, "We've decided this is best for both sides. Once Leon's enrollment goes through, they'll fully take charge of him, so you've got nothing to worry about." Honored, the parents lowered their heads and thanked him, because Frederick still had one more request. One of his far-off relatives is planning to show up here pretty soon. It's a shock, but would it be okay if she arrives about a week from now? Rowena blurts out, "Is this really okay? I'm just a diner owner." Frederick smiles and assures her it's totally fine, just go back to acting like nothing's changed. After that meeting, he let out a deep breath, so grateful, he genuinely appreciated it. The parents dropped their heads onto the table, defeated and exhausted. Frederick's words totally blew past them, pure nerves scrambled their brains. And wait, Leon was actually moving into the Duke's house, right? So that relative's rolling in next week, right? It all sounded so smooth and fancy that they couldn't even keep up with half of it. Speaking of that, Leon was praying they'd help him get everything set up before she arrives, because this time, she's not just anyone, she's a noble. Rona's jaw dropped when she learned she's a noble, and now she's fired up to prepare something amazing for herself. Those noble events sent the parents into a full-on spiral, so Leon stepped in fast and told them to calm down, because he'd already mapped everything out. They'll go pick fresh raspberries and whip up pancakes right here at home. No fancy prep needed, just simple, sweet cooking. Fixing up the house so it shined would be more than enough. This time, Nicola and Luke aren't out there picking raspberries. They have to keep it all locked down as a secret. And the woman coming, she's a noble, and they can't let her be swarmed by too many people. If that lady storms in out of nowhere, Leon will rush to Uncle and Andy and tell them to hold the boys back. No one's coming that day. Talking about those pancakes, don't you dare let Leon forget. Raspberries might sound plain for a noble, so he usually loads up on something sweet. Liam already knew, so he snatched up some sugar, and when the three saw it, their eyes went wide. Marie's smile lit up as she couldn't wait to sink her teeth into something sweet. Rowena couldn't believe it. Where did he even get the money for something like that? Turns out Leon had sparked an idea that let Marcel improve one of his magical tools, so Leon got paid for the help. Can something like that even happen? First, they've got to practice, perfect those sweet pancakes by testing the right mix of ingredients, and since they've still got raspberries lying around, they might as well whip up a whole batch right now. After trying every amount they could, they finally cracked the recipe, and it turned out insanely delicious. The texture didn't feel like regular pancakes at all, and the sweetness made it hit even harder. Sure, it wasn't traditional, but it was so good even Lady Martine would have been begging for more. In the castle of Rathrasia, Richard strode up to a royal guard and demanded to know if the king was inside. After the royal guard rushed in and told the Majesty, "The Chancellor is here," the whole room tightened with anticipation. The Majesty opened the door and let him in. Richard dipped into a deep, respectful bow as he greeted the king of Rathrasia. Richard shoots Alexis Rathrasia a request, asking for permission to steal his moment before official duties kick in. "And if you can, I'd like to talk in private," so the king agreed. And when they finally had a moment alone, Richard leaned in and told him it was all about Leon. "Isn't that the commoner they were talking about the other day?" Richard nodded and said he even invited the boy to dinner last night. So tell me, what's really going on? That kid might be an apostle. When this revelation hit, it stunned the king clean out of his throne, and that raised serious questions. Did the boy really say it himself? Richard snapped back that no, the boy denied it, but the evidence piled up anyway, pointing straight to the truth. His speech, his posture, his manners, everything screams noble kid, far too polished for a boy raised in some back alley diner on the edge of the capital. And the wild part is he picks up hard concepts like it's nothing. Smart enough that, honestly, I didn't see that coming. And on top of that, he can fire off every single attribute he's got. Richard pressed the boy for answers, but the kid shut him down fast, denying everything like his life depended on it. So Richard immediately knew he was hiding his real identity, and Alexis nodded along, agreeing. Reed told him if it's really like that, then we'll have to guard him while acting like we have no clue, because you can't predict when rival factions will try to make a move. When they ask Leon's plan, Richard straight up tells the king, the kid wants to get into the Royal Academy. Frederick hands him study materials on the spot. He can already read, write, and do math, so all that's left is history. By the way, the king is hiding one huge thing from Richard. There's a forbidden biography meant only for kings, about an apostle, and the details line up perfectly with everything Richard has just revealed. So yeah, it looks like Leon might actually be an apostle. It's exactly that, but for now, they've got to keep this under wraps. Richard already made Leon swear to hide his magic until he graduates, and Alexis thinks that's the perfect first step. Once Leon graduates and gets noble status, even rival factions or foreign powers won't stand a chance, and if Leon ever declares he wants to be king, Alexis won't oppose him. The royal family will back him up, just not yet, so can the Duke's house shield him until then? Richard dipped his head and answered, yes. Leon will head to the academy under the Duke's protection and stay right there with them, and Richard even has a grandchild the same age, so maybe, just maybe, they'll hit it off fast. Alexis has a kid the same age, so he asks Richard if he should tell them about Leon's magic, but Richard shuts it down, saying Alex might be bright, yet he's still just a child, and Leon's magic doesn't need to weigh on him. Alexis wants to meet Leon in person someday, and can't stop wondering if it's even possible, until Richard warns him it could be risky, so for now he decides to stay low and not draw attention, because Leon's family might be the real target. Richard weighs two moves, post guards around his family or hire help under the Duke's estate, and Alexis lights up at the plan. If the guards are needed, Richard will tell him. He'll hand over the royal shadows without hesitation. He tilts his gaze upward and lets out a heavy sigh like, yeah, this is about to get hectic. Then he can't shake the thought, could the apostles' arrival be tied to that monster forest that's growing bigger and bigger? Richard couldn't stop thinking about it. Honestly, it felt like divine intervention had its hands all over everything. They must stop the monster forest from spreading, because in just 10 years, those monsters will flood the world. They've got to stop that, because Leon might be their only hope. They've got to guard him with their lives, no exceptions. Then Alexis commanded him to start naming the most lethal nobles one by one. Richard nodded and swore he'd get it done, guaranteed, by tomorrow. With hope finally flickering, Alexis vows to shield Leon no matter what it costs. In the world of the Earth Goddess, yes, the exact one Leon lives, a woman was sobbing, begging for a selfie after realizing she'd been let down. She got the news the other day that she'd failed. Frozen with shock, Selfie blurts out what she meant, then fires back that she already warned her to be careful with it. Then she tears into the question, how the heck did she mess up so badly? In her world, a soul had a body that fit it perfectly, no mistakes. But the second that person died and the soul slipped out, it got yanked into that body anyway. Selfie couldn't help but wonder, where did the body that was supposed to decay even go? The second the soul slid in, her body snapped back to life, like it was waiting for that exact moment, and Selfie just shrugged, saying this happens a lot, so yeah, the odds were stacked high. Selfie was convinced monsters had stormed into her world, and she was ready to save the humans, so she reincarnated them, right? The girl nodded, like she couldn't doubt it. And yeah, she spelled out the whole truth in the divine realm, then handed over the powers, because her plan was to reincarnate him as a royal child. And she even handed him the power to cast every elemental spell and decode every language, but she failed to secure the sacred item, so she couldn't reach him at all. On top of that, he got reincarnated as a lowly commoner with zero clue about why he was brought back. She was set to hit him up all the time, dragging him into action so he'd finally save the world. Selfie starts freaking out, asking how soon monsters will swallow her world, and the girl replies, around a dozen more years, then stares ahead and whispers, so, who's getting reincarnated next? She burned through nearly all her divine power, and now she's running on fumes, so getting back to full strength will take a few hundred years. She cranked that kind of power nonstop, because in her old world humans had gone extinct, so she desperately wanted to rebuild them. And yeah, you heard me right. She didn't just make one world, she created two. In the first world, she blessed every living thing with magic, but then monsters tore through and wiped out humanity. So in this second world, magic powers only belonged to humans. Then she pictured her favorite country, Japan, inside the sheriff's world, forged a near copy of it, and pushed the whole story a little farther into the future. And yeah, the magic is the whole twist, because in the first world, the rice that kicked the monster population into overdrive wasn't even grown by normal means. In the end, the kid who reincarnated from Japan, but can't stop loving medieval Europe, insisted on a Japanese vibe. So that's exactly how this world became. She made one brutal mistake. When she built this world, everything changed. A tiny hole opened and yanked a lifeline from the dead first world into this one. Then it swelled and swallowed plants, animals, and everything living, until she had no choice but to unleash a whole terrifying forest of monsters. If this keeps going, we're headed straight for the same fate as the first world, so she hurled the sacred objects and books away in panic. But by the time humans finally stumbled on and learned the language of that book, nearly everyone was already gone. In the end, the monster forest keeps swallowing more land, and she's left with one cruel job, reincarnating him to plug the hole. She couldn't swallow the fact that she'd failed. Then Selfie shrugged and said, "If there's nothing else we can do, we just have to pray they'll make the right move." Aren't monsters adorable? She's convinced it'll be totally fine to bring monsters into that world. The girl blurted out that she loves humans, and then couldn't help but wonder if Selfie's world feels the same too. Still, Selfie wasn't trying to turn her home into a human one at all. In a world where magic is gone, only the sharpest minds seem to make it, so why didn't she just play it safe too? The girl warned her that without magical power, the world will eventually collapse, and Selfie agreed. And he's convinced it all starts when humans tap into energy that isn't magical power, which is exactly why that girl was determined to shut it down. Up until now, she honestly thought everything would be okay. She wasn't wrong. She just got hit with the worst possible luck. But the real point is what hits next. She has to find a way to get in touch with Leon. Selfie told her to reach out to him through Oracle, and yeah, if that worked, she'd barely need to lean on her divine power. Hope surged in her chest, and she happily shot back, "See, I told you I was right." Then she froze in terror, realizing she had nobody in this whole world who believed in her. After a little while, she fired the question at Selfie. Would he believe her if she told the truth? Because he won't buy a word until she gives him a little time. If it doesn't work out, she can always bounce back to Earth and visit again. She tells her thank you, but honestly, she's still got her heart set on her own world. For now, there's nothing left to do but stand guard over him, so she's gotta dig deep and give it everything she's got. And then 1 week later, that morning, right at Leon's place, the whole family blitzed through the house, scrubbing and cleaning like they had no time to waste. And once everything was over, Marie looked at Leon and realized his face was absolutely terrifying. When Leon dropped the bomb that today's visitor was a girl, John leaned in and told them her name was Martine, but the truth was a ticking bomb, because getting caught would turn everything into a huge disaster. Marie leans in and asks, "Am I a princess?" Leon tells her, "Martine is the child of the most powerful person in this whole country," and then he just keeps going, and warned his parents that if they ever discovered this girl was a princess, it would blow up into a huge problem. So he pushed for calling her Martin Sama instead. They scream as soon as someone knocks on the door. And when Martine finally says it was her, Leon swings the door wide and boom, there's Martine, Frederick, and a maid standing right there. Leon greeted her with a warm smile, then gestured them inside and kept it formal and respectful, while behind him, his parents bowed politely as a greeting. As soon as the door shut, Martine rushed up to him, practically buzzing, saying it had been ages, and she could barely contain how thrilled she was to meet him today. With a face burning red, Leon shot back that he felt the exact same way. Then he brought his parents and his little sister out for introductions. Martin felt genuinely grateful for the way she reached out and trusted him with her request today. And he was praying she'd click with Marie too. But as always, Marie sat her down and told her, straight up, that she was ridiculously cute. Martin pulled her two companions into the spotlight, her maid and her bodyguard. When Leon laid out their plan, her eyes lit up like she'd been waiting for it. After he shows her his house, they'll sprint into the forest to pick raspberries, and back at home, he'll whip up pancakes for dessert loaded with those sweet berries. With a spark in her eyes, Martine leaned in and told him, "Come on, this sounds like the most fun ever." This is the first time she's even heard of a pancake dessert, and she's wondering if commoners even go for it. Then Leon fires back and reveals the truth. He invented that recipe himself. Martin lit up at that and pushed, "Let's kick things off. Let's start by checking out my house." Our incredible Marie, always so naturally herself, lifted her hands and offered, like, "Come on, I'll show you the house." Meanwhile, Roanna's worry was eating at her. Marie would be in trouble for pulling a stunt like that, but Leon cut in fast, telling everyone, "Don't stress," and urging them to finally just breathe and relax. Rona finally exhaled. She didn't have to stress about it, but then she caught herself wondering, why on earth did Leon keep stacking those honorifics like it was a full-time job? Who taught him how to drop those natural honorifics like he was born for it? When Leon told them he'd learned it from Marcel, the two of them just stared. No way he could have soaked up that much in such a short time. That's exactly why Marcel Sand calls him so sharp. So now, Leon's got one question hanging in the air: what does he do next? Making excuses is getting harder by the second, so Jean just flashes a grin and tells him their child is supposed to turn out this way. When Leon got called inside, the two immediately prayed they'd learn that honorific language next time too. Then Leon beamed at them, nodded in agreement, and headed in. The moment Leon showed up, Martine rushed over, buzzing with excitement. Her eyes lit up as she bragged that this was her first time seeing a well, and she couldn't believe water really came pouring up from right under the ground. She learned so much just by seeing it with her own eyes. Seriously, it hits different when it's right in front of you. So now, are they going to see the bedroom? Marie hurled herself onto the bed, slamming down hard. Told her this is where everyone sleeps. Together it's nice and warm, even if it gets a little cramped. After you've tracked down every single other part of the house. Martin shot them a grateful look and asked if they were heading for the forest now. Then, the second lunch came up. Leon silently cursed himself for completely forgetting it. Good news, his parents swooped in, asking if she was all right with the cafeteria menu. Martina nodded, then leaned in and asked if they could slip off to the forest right after they finished eating. After they finished eating, Leon told her he'd head to the forest on foot and asked what about her. She smiled because she loves walking too, and even if she looks like this, she's still out there training in all kinds of ways, every single day. After a while, Martine lit up when she stared into the forest. This was her very first time. She gasped at the forest sea of trees, and Leon told her it all grew naturally, then grinned and said he'd head out today to pick raspberries, even bragging that he was planning to grab two. But Leon's laughter made her pout. Then he hurried to apologize, because he genuinely just thought she looked adorable. And Martin's cheeks flared as soon as he heard it, leaving him totally speechless. But the moment Leon blurted out that awkward line, he spun around and dashed off to pick raspberries, while Martine chased right behind him, swearing she'd gather way more than he ever could. After a bit of scrambling, they finally hauled in a ton. Martine asked if she could just eat it like that. Sure, it's edible, but Leon warns it'll taste way too sour for her, while Marie swears it's sweet and absolutely delicious. Martin took a taste, and the sourness snapped her tongue like lightning. When they asked if it was delicious, she still nodded, saying yes. Marie passed her another one and grinned, saying it tastes even better when you whip it into pancakes. Leanne stormed up to them and warned Marie, "If you keep stuffing yourself, there won't be a single bite left for pancakes." Marie snapped to her senses, nodded, and hurried back to grab a little more. Leon thanked Martine for looking out for Marie, and then admitted the truth. Marie was obsessed with that flavor. He figures Martine will feel a bit better if she has something to drink, so he nudges her to take a quick rest, and she happily goes along, even admitting she practically got dragged here by force. She's grateful for his care, and when he says he's enjoying himself too, her face lights up as she thanks him again. Everything is brand new to her, and she's still constantly stunned, but deep down she can't wait to see what happens next. After a little while, they finally snagged a mountain of it. So Leon pushed everyone to drop what they were doing and head home to make pancakes. His parents had everything set up and ready before he even stepped into the world. Leon swept Martine into the living room so she could finally change clothes. And when she came back, they were blown away by how adorable she looked, because that apron fit her to perfection. They cracked the eggs into a bowl, dumped in sugar and water, then stirred the whole thing together like they were cooking up something huge. Once it's mixed, they pour in the flour and stir like crazy until every single lump is gone. Once Martin finished, she grabbed it and showed it to Leon, basically asking, "Is this good? You okay with it?" The unagreed sang it was perfect, so now they just sprinkle in the raspberries they picked together, and the only thing left is to cook. Once Leon heard the frying pan was ready, he snapped at Martin to start. Leon poured it into the frying pan, then told her, "Once the bottom turns cooked, flip it, and when both sides blaze golden, they're done. They'll need a little time at the stove, so they'll whip up jam with those raspberries from earlier, toss in some sugar, simmer it to perfection, and it'll taste amazing on pancakes. He told her to dump the raspberries from the bowl into a pot, crank up the heat, then mash them as she stirred. Martin did exactly what he was told. And just like that, Leon came back with 2 bowls in his hands and urged her to add them too. He poured in the sugar and lemon juice, and right then, when it hit the pancake was seconds away from being fully cooked. Martin snaps the pancake's edge up and flips it like a pro, right on the pan, to see if it's already done. After seeing how well it was done, they passed the flipping over to Roanna, because that move is straight up tricky. Roanna whipped it around with pro-level skill, and the princess couldn't help but stare in shock. After sniffing the air, she asks, "How much longer?" then insists just a little more. After what felt like ages, they finally whipped up a pancake. The princess lit up and shoved it into his hands, and then, when he was told to bite into it, she shot it down because the others hadn't finished yet. She wanted them all together at the table, so Leon suggested she start with a little taste. She kept pushing them forward and even slipped them 2 more. When they started to refuse, the princess snapped, "Go on, a little bit won't hurt." Martin couldn't even wrap his head around it. This was insanely delicious. That texture totally got my attention. Then the sugar's sweet hit lands perfectly, and the raspberries' sharp tart punch snaps right into place when the 2 agreed. Leon lit up at how perfectly it matched their tastes, then leaned in and swore it tasted even better once you piled on the jam. After a little wait, the pancakes finally hit golden perfection. As everyone hoped, it tasted absolutely delicious, and that chunky jam, it was the best bite of all. Martin told Leon this jam was absolutely exquisite, and Leon thanked her, then admitted he loved that same texture too, so he'd leave it just like this without tinkering or straining it. Martin loved the texture so much that after that amazing meal, he's already planning to have the chef whip up more next time. Martin turned to everyone and thanked them for giving her their time today. Today, Leon's pancakes hit like pure magic, straight up delicious, and this day without exaggeration went down as one of the happiest moments of her life. If the moment comes, she's dying to come back here, especially after Leon finally agreed. She flashed him a grateful smile, then vowed she'd be back again. A few days later, Leon cracked open the history book and dove into every last page like it was hiding a secret. And then they learned the hard truth. This world had been bleeding in massive wars for ages. About 20 years back, the old king of Rathsrasia snapped up every neighboring nation that wanted more land, struck deals with the rest, and finally slammed the door on the chaos, bringing peace back to the world. But before long, the monster forest's threat crawled into view, and everyone's focus snaps to one thing, charging in, stopping it cold and smashing its advance. He finally noticed the monster forest, still slamming the brakes on their advance. Leon couldn't stop asking, was the monster forest still swelling, swallowing more land every day? And where was it pushing to next? With what speed was it spreading? With barely any info, he's completely lost, and he knows he has to go ask someone who actually knows, even wondering if it's Marcel. So he starts scratching at that idea. He starts thinking about Frederick. He's a knight, so he has to know the latest updates about it. A few days later, everything changed. Later, Leon kept his fingers crossed, desperate for Frederick to drop by any minute. Right on cue, Frederick burst into the scene, and he bolted straight at him without even hesitating, and he grabbed his attention and finally blurted out that there was one question he'd been dying to ask for ages. He realized what he'd done and blurted out an apology, but Frederick waved it off and said it was totally fine, because he had no way to reach him anyway. He shoved a coin into Leon's hand, clear proof he was tied to the ducal household. He just has to face the gatekeeper, drop his name and the name of the guy who handed it to him, and they'll let him through. Plus, he can tell Albin to pass along any messages, because Leon swore he'd take care of it. It pulled out a chair for him and asked what he wanted to eat, then, after he ate. So Leon leaned in and told him straight up. He was itching to learn more about that monster forest they mentioned in the lesson materials. Frederick hesitated for a heartbeat, then leaned in and said the monster forest sat right at the far eastern edge of the country, an entire patch of woods packed with monsters, aka creatures that can cast magic. These monsters are so brutal that you'd need a whole squad of knights just to scrape together a shot at surviving them. Even so, they were so far from the capital that the monster couldn't touch them, so Leon could finally breathe. He remembered what the Knight Order had written, that they were halting his advance, and he couldn't help asking, if they're stopping them, then doesn't that mean the forest is still growing? Frederick nodded along, told him the knights had it handled, and that everything was fine, because honestly, these two sides are so evenly matched in strength. Leon knew a normal kid could get played by that, but he wasn't buying it for a second. The forest of monsters might be holding the stronger hand, and if it is, human settlements will get chewed up again and again, so he needs to get more answers fast. But Frederick doesn't look like he'll tell him anything else anytime soon, like they're keeping the truth locked up so everyone stays calm. No matter what, he has to hunt down answers and gather intel. Leon never once guessed this world would come packed with monsters. Still, he's got every element at his disposal, so if he fuses them together, he might just pull off a devastating attack magic. Even though his mana capacity is supposed to stay fixed, the more he spends it, the more it grows, somehow, and he can't explain why, but he's not wasting the chance. Okay, first up, we're diving straight into magic practice. A few days later, Leon stormed into the forest to train, pushing himself harder than ever. But the target didn't go down, it stayed standing. After that talk, he decided he was done hesitating. He needed attack magic, and he needed it now. He's been slipping into the forest to train over and over, pushing his skills every single time. Then he tried one more run, picturing himself moving even faster. He launched his magic blast, but the outcome didn't change, still the same crushing result. He finally realizes it's not the speed at all. Maybe that rock was just ridiculously hard. A wild idea suddenly flashes in his mind. He's treating fire like it has no real weight, like it just vanishes the second it hits rock, so even if he reshapes it, the outcome will probably stay the same. He's got it, he just has to fuse it with a whole new kind of magic. Then he'll summon earth magic to forge a stone arrow, cloak it in fire magic, hoist it high, and fire it straight into the fight. But keeping it up in the air burns through a ton of mana. He sat there, stared at the arrow he'd drawn, and then it hit him. He didn't have to forge one from nothing when real earth was already right there to use. He snatched it up and instantly pictured it floating through space with zero gravity. Then he wrapped it in blazing fire and he pictured it like a bullet. Then finally, he fired it. Did it smash the target with an earth-shaking impact? And when he checked it, he lit up. Yep, it worked, and that arrow drilled right through the target. It was a total win. Now the real question is, do we forge it into an arrow? He imagined a bullet doing the exact same thing, and then his thoughts cut off. He pulled the trigger, blam, a thunderous boom ripped through the air. I was seriously hyped. What a massive win. That's how he can choke down the magic, like it's suddenly easier to control. So when the projectile comes blazing through, he calls it a asterisk fire bullet asterisk asterisk. Alright, now we're diving into area of effect magic. So when you hear area, what are we talking about? Wind magic. Because he didn't hesitate, he blasted wind magic. But the power you get just doesn't match how much magic you burn. When you say wind attack, it's like a raging whirlwind, but he's never seen one, so it's impossible to picture, and he starts trying to lace the blast with tiny stones. He had a brutal kind of magic, plus a move so special it deserved a name, so he called it the Rock Tornado. Alright, wipe that panic off your face, steady your breath, and start firing up a whole new set of thoughts. Next, he cranks out even more attack spells: Water Magi, Water Jet, the weaker one that sips magic, and Fire Magic, Fireball, blasting the enemy with scorching, high-temperature fireballs. He slammed down an earth magic wall that shot up like a fortress defense, and he kept piling on spell after spell. Deep in the forest it is. Hardly anyone makes it this far, so yeah, we're safe. And most of all, he's determined to try it. So yeah, he can't head into the monster forest, because he just can't, but he needs to rack up experience now, so when the moment finally hits, he can act without even a second of doubt. A massive bear burst into view out of nowhere. He pumped himself up with strength enhancements, and then he tore forward to run. Bear barrels forward at full speed, and somehow, he slips the attack and dodges clean. This bear is an absolute menace, mean as hell, and massive to boot. The bear stared him down, eyes locked like a warning. He yanked his aim and went for it, firing a blazing bullet of pure fire. The bear slashed with its claw, and he leapt back at the last second to dodge it. He snatched a fire bullet into his palm, and he ripped the trigger, and the shot slammed straight into the bear. The bear exploded into a furious roar, shaking everything in its path. Right here, Leon has to act fast, like now or everything slips away. The bear was moments away from ending him, claws ready to rip the fight apart. He snapped into motion and countered with a rock tornado. But still, somehow, he pulled it off, and with that, he managed to slam into the bear and tear through it, leaving it defeated. Phew, that was way too close to disaster. He thought it was curtains for him, until the rock tornado slammed back too hard to finish the job. So now he's got to use what he's got with total precision. He's getting way too cocky with his magic, like that alone makes him unstoppable. And if he keeps acting like this, when the real moment hits, he'll be totally unable to react. It's not just magic. he's got to grind through other training too. Then the calm, ordinary days finally lingered, until winter's full bite crept in and the world started to feel it. Marie caught a cold. She had a fever all night, and it's still raging this morning. Plus, she hasn't been able to eat a single bite. He thrust the medicinal hot water he snagged from the apothecary into her hands, but it just won't do a thing. He knows nothing about medicine either, so he can't help but wonder, what can he do, if anything? Healing magic flashed through his mind, but so far he'd only used it to patch up injuries. Yet he couldn't shake the idea that it could work for sickness too. But how does he pull it off? It definitely isn't just healing injuries. Could it be that some kind of flow magic courses through his entire body? He tested it on himself first. He couldn't believe it. He could read his own body's condition like it was right there in his hands. And if he tried that on Marie, he might finally be able to heal her. He cracked open her wounds from the inside, and healing flooded in. And then she spotted something weird around her nose and throat. Could that be what's causing it? He focused every ounce of power on healing them, and just like that, he managed to make them fade away. She was crushed by pain, but now the storm inside her has finally settled, and even her face looks like it started healing. Even the treatment hit hard, but when that healing magic finally took hold and cured his illness, he couldn't help but feel grateful. This time, he felt pure gratitude for that incredible special ability. A few days later, the moment hit, right inside the magic tool workshop. Leon went to the old man with one burning idea. He wanted to design a brand new magic tool that could harness fire magic. Marcel's jaw nearly dropped when he heard the news. Told him that even beyond Leon, people had begun digging into fire magic tools to forge warm magic gear for winter, and they were just getting started with that fire magic research. But you already know, Magisteel can't handle heat, and Leon swore he could cook up a plan. And remember this, once that magic stone and Magisteel lock in together, they finally wake up and work, because they won't act as magic tools unless they're right in contact. They say heat magic tools, like fire magic devices, can't exist because the moment that magic stone touches the magisterial, it melts it on contact. But why should that be the end? What if you wrap the magisterial around the magic stone in something that blocks the heat, like earth or stone, as an insulator? But wait, how's he gonna drag it back down to earth? And honestly, Earth's not really where nobles want to build things. It's all stone, super heavy, and a nightmare to process. Even if he wraps it in insulation, heat will still yank its way from the magic stone spot where it's touching. Man, if only fire magic could ignite way out there instead of getting snatched by the magic steel. Then a wild idea hit him like lightning. So Leon fired off the question to Marcel, does the magic burst right out of the magic stone? Marcel confirmed it, and that's when Leon went, wait, then ice magic is different, because the wind magic only shows up from a distance, not from the magic stone itself. Marcel stared at the magic stone, wondering if the wind was even coming from it, and Leon shot back that nope. It was blasting from the center, spilling out beyond the box, so the wind had to be showing up from far away. Can he pull that off with fire magic? Marcel nodded, and the moment Leon started, Leon demanded to know what it was. Leon told him it was a stove. He'd been picturing a warm-up tool, but if it's boxed in like a fireplace, that part could melt, so he wants it to look exactly like this. With a magic stone nearby, the fireball bursts into full magical power. Just slap it on, and the flames will roar to life. Now that it was finally over, Marcel still couldn't wrap his head around the fact that he'd actually made it. If those fireballs are only this tiny, then they've gotta be way off, because the Majesty can't hold out for long otherwise. All that's left is to wrap the outside like an iron cage, and then it's over for good. Marcel couldn't believe it. I can't believe Leon actually pulled off the one thing we'd all written off ages ago. He's seriously incredible. Honestly, it might be safer to keep this away from the palace, because reporting it could backfire fast. There's a real chance the wrong kind of people will come hunting Leon, so I'm not about to risk it. Plus, Leon already made himself impossible to ignore with that ice maker the other day. Decades have raged since magic tools were first forged, and out of all that time, only 4 of them ever made it to the shelves. So if Leon racks up a few more in the next year, he's definitely going to stand out like a sore thumb. Leon nodded, but he shot back that they'd already figured out a fresh way to use magic stones through the ice maker. So really, shouldn't they register this one before someone else swoops in? And come on, it won't be long before someone notices either, right? Marcel's jaw dropped at Leon's explanation, and he nodded along, but that's the last time. After Leon finally lands a real position, he'll register everything himself. So if that's the plan, can Leon pitch a couple more wild ideas he's been sitting on? So he built magical cooking tools from a water heater, then sketched out almost every blueprint by hand. Then he leans in and asks the old man for one, because even if he dreams of owning it, he's just a commoner, and the price is way too much. Marcel nodded and told him to grab one from a magic tool shop and then hand it to Leon, because Marcel can't sell a thing straight from his workshop. So yeah, could Leon just get a stove in the end? The old man nods and says he'll knock the cost straight off Leon's registration payment this time. Our boy felt his shoulders lift when he heard that, and he thanked him right away, because with any luck, he wouldn't have to hide under a suffocating blanket in the freezing cold anymore. And that hits him like a punch. When he checked his account the other day, there was way more money than Marcel ever said he'd get. Turns out, finding a whole new use for water magic doesn't just change the game, it pays. It was a reward he truly earned, because this victory was the proof of everything he'd fought for. Just a few days later, at the magic tool workshop, the newly invented tool was already finished, and it was finally official. Marcel's nerves were screaming. He could barely believe they'd actually doubt him, the one who'd developed it. But orders blasted in from above, and they registered it on the spot. He stares at the kit, eyebrows knitting as he wonders, does Leon have ties to the palace's higher-ups? Leon wasn't totally sure, but his gut says it could be the Townsend-Jucal family. Either way, at least it's properly registered right. Marcel nearly fell apart when he found out he was tied to the rest of the ducal family too. Then Leon dropped the bombshell that they'd invited him to their estate just the other day. The old man finally bought his story and nodded like he was done doubting him. He leaned in and told the kid, "I already transferred your payment," handing over the total, 14 platinum coins plus 5 gold coins, while the soap cost was already chopped out of the amount. Then Leon bolted back home with this. "You slam the stove shut, then turn to your dad and ask for help." He leaned in and told the baffled Jean, "No worries, this is a magical tool, and it does something incredible. So they could use them at home. Wait, aren't magic tools supposed to be reserved for nobles? And then why is Leon sitting on one?" So he went straight to Marcel, the guy he's been getting along with, the master who crafts magic tools, and Jean remembers every detail. He blurted, "So what's this one even for?" And Leon shot back, "It's a magic tool meant to heat up the room like a stove." When night finally fell, they dragged it into their room and stuck it therewith. Leon leaned in and said they had to nail a tiny fireball, hovering about 30 centimeters over the magic stone, then pour their mana straight into it. With their mana levels looking rough, Leon froze for a second, weighing the problem in his head. And he pushed for sharper image control to slash mana use, because at that church he'd heard it straight. Magic is all about the image. The parents lock eyes and nod, silently agreeing. Leon launched into a lesson for his parents, telling them fire can't burn without oxygen, and spelling out what oxygen is so they could actually picture it. But the moment he went into all that advanced stuff, they stared like, "Whoa, how did Leon even know this?" Leon figured it out because he'd just read it in a book at some noble's estate. Leon told his parents to stop doubting and just try it already, because he was sure it could make a real difference. While Marie was already knocked out in bed, the three slipped outside to train. Leon told them to pull up that earlier image and blast it into a fireball, but keep it tiny and set it a little distance away from their palms. They stared in shock because somehow they actually pulled it off. They stared each other down and suddenly it clicked. Since they could do it, Leon pushed, "Let's try it on the stove right now." His dad gripped the stone tight, steadied his breath, and then dropped it onto the stove like a trigger about to fire. To his wild shock, it actually worked. Now they can finally curl up and sleep warm anytime they want. His parents warned him in no uncertain terms, "Don't let a single soul know about that magic tool or how to use it, especially the magic part. Keep it locked away in secret." Leon can't shake the feeling his parents have clocked the fact he isn't the same Leon anymore. And still, not a single word comes out, yet they keep loving him like nothing ever happened. He's got one of the best families out there, and there's no way he's letting anyone put them in danger. That's why he has to forge the strength to shield this family with everything he's got. Winter finally loosened its grip, and Leon could practically feel spring creeping in. Then a letter landed, courtesy of Richard, packed with 2 big points. The first invite begged you to ride with him to the duchy in autumn, and the second push was a "come to the ducal house soon" kind of request. But wait, why is Leon tagging along to this duchy with him? And where in the world is that duchy anyway? The only maps of this world, of this country, he's ever laid eyes on are those battered ones in history textbooks. An invitation from the ducal house is basically calling his name, and they've done right by him, so what's he supposed to say no? He's only ever roamed the central district and the far west side of the capital, so now he's dying to see what lies beyond the city walls. Yeah, but what does sometime soon even mean? Like, right now or later? Guess he'll find out the second he gets there. He ran it by his mom and asked to head out tomorrow. Roanna nodded and told him to stay polite, Leon shot a quick nod back, then caught his dad staring at him like something was coming. So he leaned in and demanded, "What's wrong?" Gene waved it off like it was nothing, but then he started nudging the truth. Leon's gonna be out of the house a lot more from here on, and once school hits, Leon will be leaving too, right? That's when Gene thought, maybe we should bring in someone to help as an employee. And since Marie was still little, it felt smart to bring in at least one helper. Leon stared at them with a hurting face. Normally, he'd have inherited the dining hall, so none of this chaos would have touched him, yet he shuffled out while apologizing under his breath. Gene insisted he wasn't blaming him at all. Back then, Gene and Roanna ran this whole place as a two-person team, and lately the customers have been pouring in, so they'd already started talking about it. Leon finally gets it, and he promises he'll grind until the new hire learns the job the right way. So the real question is how they even find someone, and the answer is, they went straight to the church. You've just got to tell them the work conditions and the pay, and they'll turn it into a notice, slap it on the church bulletin board, and if people can't read, the church staff will read it out loud for them. Leon was stunned to hear that. Come on, just hope the right person finally shows up. Gene leaned in and told his son, don't stress about our work, just do whatever you want. Leon bows to his parents, buzzing with gratitude, convinced they're the best, and makes a heartfelt promise to them. He'll make them proud. The very next morning, Leon climbed into a carriage and rode off, fast, like the road couldn't wait for him, until he tore into the central district. As he marched on, he finally clocked it. The Duke's estate was still way out of reach, far from here, and he couldn't stop thinking, I wish there was any way to get there besides trudging on foot. If only there was teleportation, or some crazy flying magic to get us out of here. At last, he burst up to the gates of Townsend, right at the entrance to the ducal estate. He marched up to the guard and shoved Richard Townsend's letter right into his hands. After checking everything, the guard nodded and waved him through. He got mobbed the moment he arrived by his aunts, who stepped in and introduced Roger, the guy from town, plus the staff, right in front of everyone. Roger flashed a polite smile, greeted him warmly, and couldn't wait to serve him. He'll step in to handle Leon's personal needs, while Leon stays put, and Roger finally gets greeted back in that estate. Why he was such a total jerk, and it drove everyone crazy. He doesn't sugarcoat it. Everyone can tell Roger is insanely good at his job, but his dead serious vibe makes people think he's cold and unapproachable. Leon has the same problem with him. He's like this with everyone, so Leon can't stand him. From this point on, Roger is the one who steps in as his guide. As Ants drags Leon away from Roger, Leon's jaw tightens, because he desperately wants to shout, wait, I can't just let this happen. Ants had already completed her duty, so it was time to go. Leon felt painfully awkward as he trailed behind Roger. When they finally burst into the room, Roger leaned in and told him, after dinner tonight, Richard will meet you, just wait. Until then, Leon could do whatever he wanted, but right before dinner, he had to rush to the bath and throw on fresh clothes. Lunch was going to be served in this room, and since Roger was just a servant, they didn't need any fancy talk. Leon could call him Roger like it was nothing, but Leon was about to say something. Roger's eyes blazed with a hard, furious glare. He shrieked and blurted a quick agreement, then awkwardly said his name and threw out, nice to meet you. Roger nodded right back, and you could tell he was already hyped to serve him from this point on. So if Leon's got a little time after lunch, what's he want to do? Does he want to chill or take care of something? Leon's already thinking, then he asks if it's okay to swing by the bank. Meanwhile, Leon pulled out 10 silver coins and quickly checked his balance. He's sitting on 24 platinum coins and 3 gold coins, about 14.3 million yen, and he has no clue what he'll need later. So he decides to stash it away and save every last bit. He shot Roger an apology for making him wait, then urged them to turn around and head back. Once they finally rolled up to the estate, Roger ordered him to drop his luggage and hit the bath right away. After Roger helped him scrub his body clean, he dove into the bath and sank under the water. Then Roger grabbed a towel, dried himself off, and fixed his hair like he meant business. He can't stop thinking how their future relationship would feel way better with some easy, casual chatting. So he decides to go for it and tells Roger, straight up, that he's insanely efficient at his job. Of course it is. Roger's got that job, and he's doing it. His eyes bulged with shock as he saw that smile. He figured Roger was just reacting to straight-up praise, and maybe, just maybe, they could finally get along. Then he saw that grin and asked what was wrong, but Roger shook his head and denied it. It's over. Now they've got to rush to the dining hall before it's too late. Right there, Leon nodded politely and thanked Richard for bringing him along, and Richard quickly apologized for the call, then insisted they hit dinner first. The reason he dialed Leon, this time, and not for any other reason. The letter spells out the exact time, and it's pointing straight to the ducal territory, so we've got to move. Christoph, the eldest son who now rules the ducal lands, has a kid, Lucian, who's Leon's exact age, because Lucian just moved in to start attending the royal school. They'll go pick him up, and he's dead set on it. Leon has to see ducal territory with his own eyes and meet Christoph. He already filled him in about Leon, so Richard didn't have to stress, and Leon thanked him, saying he was dying to get out and see more than just the royal capital. Richard was thrilled to hear that. And just like that, I told him I'd give him the schedule later. Yeah, one more thing. He told them Taylor was coming tomorrow, and he figured this was the perfect chance for Leon to finally get fitted too. Richard's got the tailoring feat handled, so you don't need to worry. Seeing the kid's reaction, Richard snapped back. It's fine, really. But the boy still wanted to do something, anything, to thank him, if he's got the materials to make magic tools. Oh no, he went and pulled it again. The Townsend family hit pure shock when they learned he could forge a magic tool, and they were convinced Marcel was the one behind it. Leon admitted he'd been allowed to make them, then his mind raced over whether Marcel would pay the price, until Richard cut in, telling him, "Don't worry," and reassuring him that everything would be fine, and grilled him, asking if he was behind those brand new registrations. Leon nodded and said, "You can't put those under your name, so that's why he came to Marcel." Now Richard finally gets the whole thing. He assumed Leon was just there to toss out advice, but trusting him with that quick favor turned out to be the perfect move, getting smooth registration. But this time, the people who got registered were using brand new tech, and it's clear the research on magic tools has sprinted ahead at lightning speed. Leon finally gets it. Those releases and sales are about to happen, and it clicks that Marcel must have been fishing for answers when he asked if Leon knew anyone up in the upper circles of the place. Yep, Richard told Leon to quit tinkering with magic tools starting right now, and Leon fully planned to follow through. Even though it's healing magic, Leon barely gets chances to use it, so he can't swear it'll work on everything. But when he cast it on a family member who had a nasty cold, the sickness vanished, which makes him pretty sure it could wipe out other illnesses too. Richard's jaw dropped the moment he heard that, and demanded to know if there was any way he could save Albin. For generations, Albin's family has served his family as butlers, basically treated like true family by them, and when it doesn't work out, Leon still steps up and asks, "Can I examine him?" He nods in agreement and swears he'll do everything he can. He's bursting with gratitude, and he bows to him with all his heart. Leon caught a sharp wave of herbal scent, and his mind raced. Was this world actually dosing sickness with plants? Richard says Albin's been sick for 6 weeks, and he's only getting weaker by the day, so his son and servants are stepping in, but the handover still isn't finished, and they're struggling to keep everything together. Albin hauled himself up in a daze, apologizing for how hideous he looked, while Frederick leaned toward Leon and murmured, "Can you fix him?" Leon didn't have a clue, but he clenched his resolve and promised he'd give it everything he had. Then he snapped to the butler's side and declared, "I'm going to heal you with magic." There's zero promise it'll cure him, but would he let Leon give it a shot? When the butler finally agreed, Leon pressed his forehead and felt it. His fever was blazing, and he couldn't stop coughing. Even now, breathing itself feels like a battle. If his lungs were about to catch fire, then Leon would have to strike back, right then and there. He shot both hands forward, stretching them wide, and he realized they were right around Albin's lungs, like the problem was wrapped up in his breath itself. He doesn't know the full details, but should he really just picture wiping out the harmful stuff inside his body? This feels even nastier than Marie's case, so it's going to gulp down a ton of magic power. But ever since he started using magic, it had exploded, over 100 times stronger, so yeah, he should be able to pull it off. He kept pouring that power into the old man's healing, but every second sucked his magic dry. He refused to stop. This wasn't finished. He just needed a little more. One more step, just a little more. And just like that, every last dark spot vanished. When he snapped the words to the butler, "It's over," the whole moment crashed. Then Albin yanked his eyes open, and then he pushed himself to his feet, staring in disbelief. He was completely healed, and he hurriedly thanked the kid. He'll remember this kindness for the rest of his life, no matter what happens next. In the back, the three friends exchanged wide-eyed looks, still reeling from what had just gone down. And they stared in disbelief, blown away by what he could do. Richard leaned in and told Leon he needed to talk, like, right now, about something big. In Richard's room, Richard let it slip. Leon's power from right now was absolutely mind-blowing, but for his safety, they'd keep it locked down and never, ever let it out. But hey, there's always someone who needs that power, and he was ready to pay any price, no matter what it cost. When Leon nodded in agreement, Richard demanded to take a look at them right now, and Leon shot back asking if tomorrow afternoon would work, because he's barely got any magic left at all. Now Richard finally gets it, and he rushes in to apologize for that wild, unreasonable request. Next, Leon spots their worried faces and instantly knows this is bad, so he steels himself and demands who it was. Then his blood runs cold when he hears Lady Martine. He couldn't stop thinking about it, because when he met them, Martin was unbelievably healthy. If this keeps going, does it really mean he'll never see that smile again? He doesn't want to risk it, but can he really cure her? And what happens if he fails? Richard swallowed his pride and apologized for leaning on his power every single time. But they had no choice. Seriously, what good was he if he just quit? He clocked the whole situation and swore he'd give it everything to save Lady Martine. And honestly, he just wants her to get back on her feet, fully, safe, and smiling again. Now that everything was decided, Richard would rush to tell His Majesty at the very first light of morning, while Leon would crash and rest, digging deep to recover his magic. At the terrifying Rathsrasia castle, inside Martine's room, a maid hovered there, keeping a close eye on her. Martin, sick as a dog, mutters Leon's name under his breath. Leon ripped the sickness out of his body with recovery magic. The very next morning, Sir Richard slipped the shocking news straight to the king, because Lady Martine is gravely ill right now. That's why Leon had to storm into the castle. But the moment this power leaks, it can't be allowed to get out to the public. And so that afternoon, under Sir Richard's scheme, he slipped away in secret, heading straight for the castle. He couldn't catch a wink of sleep. His magic power surged back, he ate to refill his strength, and getting new clothes tailored felt like the perfect reset, because the plan was simple. First, he'd meet that one man just outside the city center. Sir Richard handpicked this man from afar, and the royal family crowned him their choice. Then he proved himself as a rock-solid pharmacist, trusted from day one. And Leon got shoved into the role of his assistant, like it was a trap waiting to snap shut. After slipping on the same clothes from that pharmacist country, Leon leans in and asks, "So, how's it going?" Even though it's perfect, the pharmacist Sung Hwan rushes in, apologizes for the delay, and tells Leon, from now on, you'll be called Nam-hee. With everything finally in place, Nam-hee, no, Leon dug in a bow, then lit up with excitement, ready to team up with Sung Hwan. As they finally rolled up to the royal palace, the coachman held out the invitation right in front of the guard. After that, they finally got the green light to step inside. At the front door, heart pounding in his chest, a butler swept in to greet them and bowed deep, thanking Sung Hwan for traveling all this way. Still, he couldn't stop wondering who that kid even was. Sung Hwan told the butler it was his assistant, Nam-hee, and asked if he could join them. The butler said yes. He read the room and guided them. Normally they'd meet in the audience chamber, but the butler had orders to escort Sir Sung Hwan straight to this place. When they finally got to that specific room, the royal guard strode in and told everyone inside that Sung Hwan and his assistant, Nam, had arrived. Once they get the go-ahead, they fling the door wide open. Richard unveils the king, and Alexis rushes them into the royal halls of Rathsrasia Castle. Alexis heard that Sung Hwan was a top-tier pharmacist, and relief hit her hard knowing he'd come all this way just for her. He threw an apology back right after arriving, then demanded they rush to the location immediately. This patient's in serious trouble, and he wants them checked ASAP. Sung Hwan agreed, but insisted that his assistant come too. After the king finally agreed, marching alongside 3 royal guards, they burst into Martin's room. The king snapped to the guard, "I brought you the pharmacist. He traveled all this way for Martin." The king barked orders at everyone but them, telling everyone else to get out and clear the room. He told them, "You're famous pharmacists from across the border," and said they're about to start treatment, but they warned there are secret methods too, so only authorized people are allowed to stay. The royal guard opened her mouth to argue, but the king cut in and demanded to know if she didn't trust him and Richard. She froze, went silent, and just nodded in agreement. Leon jolted the moment Richard barked his name, who thanked him for coming. Then Sung Hwan breezed through everything like it was nothing. He finally steps up and introduces Alexis Rathsrasia. Asia stands as the king of this country, and when Leon steps forward, he grabs the king's hand and fires off a bold, "I'm Leon." The king told him, "Don't worry, I've heard plenty about you." And yeah, Martine's been singing his praises too, even gushing about the day she'd finally visit his house. He dropped to his knees and bowed in front of Leon, begging him to save Martine. Panicking, Leon grabbed the king's attention and shouted for him to lift his head, because that was exactly why Leon came here, and he wanted to see her right now. The king shoved open the door to Martin's room, burst into the room and rushed straight toward her, calling her name with pure worry. Seeing her frail state, Leon's eyes blew wide with pure shock. He couldn't believe she was this sick already. Tears streamed down his face as the king dropped to his knees and begged him to save his daughter. Leon clenched his fist and swore he'd give it everything he had. Next, he stormed up to Martine and blurted that it was him, Leon. Martin snapped her eyes open, grinning like she just hit the jackpot. He was back. Leon warned her not to push herself too hard, so just talk to her and let it all go, because he's going to cure her illness. He thrust out his hand and unleashed healing magic, restoring everything in its wake. But he was totally stunned. Dark marks were everywhere, and this wasn't like Marie and Albin's case at all. It felt like something was wrong at the cellular level, not a virus or bacteria. And it surges through the body like it's powered by the heartbeat itself. Wait, are we talking a blood disease here? He has no clue beyond that with what he knows. But now he has to figure out what comes next, right now. Means making every one of these messed up cells snap back to normal. It takes way more magic than he ever thought, and he can't stop wondering if it's because his image is just too blurry to hold its shape. Then he'll bulldoze his way to victory with raw, unstoppable magical power. He's going to cure it, no doubt about it. Those dark shapes slowly sharpened into something real, but before he even had time to react, his strength vanished and he crumpled to the floor. So you're telling me he slipped away, because nobody even managed to catch the guy who just went meow. Then he snapped his eyes open and immediately wondered, where am I? He shot up from the spot, and after what felt like forever, he finally snapped awake. Richard figured his magic was probably done for the moment, so he let the boy crash into sleep, then leaned in and asked if he was all right. Leon nodded and immediately asked what was happening with Lady Martine. While she's still knocked out, Alexis slips in a quick word after Leon collapses, but the moment she hears him, she drops right back into sleep. Still, she said she felt way better now, so there's no doubt Leon's healing magic really hit the mark. Alexis shot him a sharp thank you, then bowed her head. Leon stepped in front of the king and declared he was just a lowly commoner, but the king would not back down. He fired off a reminder. He can tap into every attribute, and with healing magic, he can wipe out illnesses like they never existed. And yeah, his power is honestly incredible. It needs to be shouted from the rooftop so everyone notices it. Because if they don't, the truth is, this power is far too dangerous to stay hidden. And with Leon right now like this, the threat to him and his family just keeps climbing. So yeah, he grudgingly begged Leon to keep it under wraps, even though this power was the kind he should have been proud of. And after Leon thanked the king for his words, everything shifted. Right there, the king demanded he drop all the titles and just call him by his name, Alexis. Yeah, only when it's that tiny, select few. Leon nodded and agreed. And he can't help thinking that even someone like this still has a childish streak. So yeah, Alexis decides she'll give him something back for what happened. If there's even a single thing he can pull off, he's doing it. No hesitation, no excuses. Leon swallowed his fear, then gathered every ounce of courage to ask the king for his status and position, so he could finally protect himself and his family. When they hear it, both of them freeze in total shock. Seeing those reactions explode on their faces, Leon tried to talk it out, because with his situation this could get dangerous fast, so he asked for it. But now, is he really pushing his luck too far? For a split second, the room went stone-dead quiet. The moment before the king smashed it with a smug smile. His answer totally blindsided him. He was only a little shocked, but it hit him hard. All right, Alexis will give every ounce he can, because the noble rank only unlocks when you graduate from the Royal Academy. Alexis quickly orders guards to stand watch over him and his family. Right then, they all hear a terrifying creak coming from somewhere nearby. Alexis snapped to her feet fast, like she'd just stumbled onto something big, and rushed to his daughter. Richard thrust a glass of water into the king's hands, right for Martine. Alexis handed it to her so she could drink it. Once she had it, she drank. She inched forward and then boom, she couldn't believe what she saw. That pain had already vanished. Even that same nasty water that once made her feel sick, now she drinks it without a single problem. Home came and Alexis slammed into a hug, so relieved she was finally okay. Leon leaned in and asked her what she was feeling, and she told him it felt like all that pain was a lie, because her body suddenly felt weightless. Wait, so it was Leon who healed her, right? Leon asked for permission to double-check it with magic one last time. He grinned and announced that everything was finally fine, no problems left. The princess lit up, and with a bright smile, she thanked him for it. That smile, Leon finally got to see it. Relief hit him hard. He'd protected it, and he couldn't stop smiling. From here, Martine just has to fuel herself, move a little every day, and her strength should come rushing back. then she can finally swing by Leon's place again. Or Leon could storm in here to see her. Martin knew Leon was the one who healed her, but she still felt lost. She'd never even heard that recovery magic could cure an illness, so she stared, stunned. Leon leaned toward the king and whispered exactly what he was allowed to reveal. Because Martin is the one who's already felt the power of his magic, Alexis is convinced there's no point in hiding it anymore. And since she's royalty, she probably mastered the art of keeping secrets long ago, so Leon figured this wouldn't be a problem at all. Leon makes Martin pause because she realizes he's way more magical than most, and just like she saw, his recovery magic can heal even crippling illnesses. And yeah, he can tap into every elemental power magic has to offer. That hit her like a punch to the chest, and she couldn't stop wondering if he was an apostle, until Leon shut that down, flat out, with a denial. Just take them all, you can use them for some reason, and trust me, it'll work. He's convinced it all boils down to the raw power of his imagination, and how much mana he's carrying. The sharper the image, the more powerfully his mana works, and even though he can't explain it, the more he uses it, the more his mana keeps climbing. He's convinced his power is already dozens of times stronger than anyone else's. Curing her sickness came down to this mana, and the wild imagination that turned it into a miracle. Martin looks totally lost about imagination, and Leon just shrugs like, yeah, it's kinda hard to explain from here, you've gotta know the basics first. Martin leans in and asks, so I already have that knowledge, right? Then she grins and tells him to forget everything she just said. For a nobody like him to know something even royalty can't touch, that would freak anyone out. He thought that if he showed off every attribute, he'd finally leave nothing hidden. But the truth is, the biggest secret of all is still buried. He's the kind of person who's been reborn over and over again. He refuses to let that secret slip out, because if they ever found it, they'd swear he's demon-possessed. For now, he's gotta scramble up an excuse, just in case it comes up. Martina leans in and asks if he'll teach her recovery magic too, because she wants to heal the sick with her own hands. Alexis figures it's not such a bad move, because Martin's mana is at level 5, and he's got the recovery attribute to keep it climbing. No, saving her life doesn't mean you can let some common outsider get within arm's reach of the princess. But when they asked if he'd do it, he nodded and agreed, then. But made it clear there's still a real chance it won't work, because the mana capacity difference could throw everything off. Still, if he teaches her that imagination he's been talking about, then maybe there's a real shot, right? Leon didn't think it was impossible. So Martin shut it down, then leaned back like everything was finally in his favor. Leon didn't even hesitate, he just agreed, because damn, that smile totally got him, and now he'd do anything for her. Since the lesson couldn't happen inside the palace, Alexis pushed for a change of plans. Let's do it at Richard's estate instead. Wouldn't it scream trouble if Lady Martin kept showing up at the estate way too often, with no real reason at all? So the king hatched a plan. He pointed straight at Catherine and called her the perfect excuse. Richard admitted Catherine was brilliant at healing magic, but didn't it make sense for her to head straight to the palace instead? Alexis tells Leon to be her attendant, convinced it's totally normal for a woman to have a male helper. So Leon, who was just meant to play the part, somehow gets yanked into going straight to the palace before he even realizes it. After that, Leon will storm into the palace as Catherine's attendant, and right there, he'll teach Martin magic. He's itching to kick things off the moment Martin gets her strength back. All right, now comes the crazy part, right after this. They whisper it back and forth, low and intense, like it's too dangerous to say out loud. Richard yanked the door open and shot a message to the servant. The royal guards couldn't believe it, like the deed had already been sealed. The royal guards and the Martins hurried inside, faces tight with worry. They demanded to know who their master was. The king grinned and told them not to worry. Thanks to Master Samuel's treatment, the princess was fully recovered. The servant dashed into the princess's room and fretted that maybe she shouldn't be sitting up just yet. Then Martin rushed in and apologized, explaining he didn't mean to scare everyone. And she told them she was perfectly fine now, like all that pain was nothing but a nightmare, all thanks to Master Sung Hwan the apothecary, standing right here in front of them. Sung Hwan Bo stood there, and when he told the princess her words were way too kind, it felt like a whole mountain of gratitude finally broke free in her. As the moment came to a close, the servant bowed deeply and thanked the apothecary with all their heart. Sun Hwan slips away with a quick bow, telling the king it's time, then pushes them to the next patient. The king looked him in the eye, praised his skills like the rumors promised, and handed him a box as payment. The two of them bowed low, then tore their eyes away and said goodbye. After Leon stopped in the forest, Roger greeted him politely, like he'd been expecting him all along. The moment he climbed into the carriage, exhaustion hit him hard. Roger beamed and praised his work, then asked if they could turn around and head back to the ducal estate right now. Leon peered out the window and let out a breathless sigh of pure relief. Meanwhile, Roger kept firing off plans and hashing out his schedule. Weeks slipped by after Lady Martine's sickness got cured in the royal capital. When Leon finally burst back home, he jumped in and helped out around the house like he always did, and when his free time hit, he slipped into the forest to train his magic. He spent that time grinding his body too, training to pump up his physical strength, because he'd decided this was the kind of challenge he'd take head-on. One day, the news hit him. Lady Martine's health was healing fast and steady. And now, he's marching straight for the royal palace with Lady Catherine at his side to teach her magic. She can't believe she's been chosen to go with him, and asked if he'd teach her magic too. But Leon didn't know whether it would actually help Lady Catherine. Catherine snapped at him to stop pretending. After all, he'd cured Albin and saved the princess from her sickness. And honestly, the guy was nothing short of incredible. That's why she was counting down to today. Leon thanked her, and the glare was so blinding it felt like it was burning her eyes. Inside the Rathsraja Castle's reception hall, Catherine flashed a polite smile and greeted the king and the princess like it was her time to shine. She let out a breath of relief the moment she saw the princess fully healed, and Martine rushed in to thank her, then apologized for putting everyone through that worry. The king bowed and begged everyone for forgiveness, then ordered them all to clear out. Catherine joined in with an apology too, and said healing magic is tied straight to human life, so they had to shut down any chance that wrong info could spread. When the servant heard that, he froze solid, but flashed an awkward smile as Catherine politely urged them to hear the whole story. Then she marched up to the king and said, "Leon serves as an assistant too, so tell me, will Alexis let him stay?" The king nodded, then commanded everyone to get out, just like that. The door slammed shut. The king ordered Leon to sit down, then told Martin, "You might as well come too, this is your first day." But she warned that next time, she'd be the one kicking everyone out, and since Leon already explained why, there's no reason this should turn into a problem. He spun toward Leon and thanked him for showing up. From now on, he plans to ask Leon every week for the date of the healing lesson, if that's fine, and Leon and Catherine reply with no trouble at all. The king flashes a grin and can't wait to team up with them. From the Leon memories still trapped in this body, a week is 5 days long, and every single one spins through the same brutal loop. Fire, water, wind, earth, then healing over and over. Classes pop up about once every 5 days. Now that I think about it, he still has no clue how many months or days even make up a year in this world. Yeah, if people measure age, there has to be some kind of yearly division. But the king gave him the green light to start the lesson right away, and then leaned in to ask if he could also stay and listen to today's lesson. Leon nods and jumps right into the lesson. First, he hammers the room with one question. Do they know imagination can shut down how much magic they use? Martin heard this. If you want magic to work, you've got to see it clearly in your mind, but she'd never heard anything like it, and neither had the king. So when Leon pressed them, asking whether they knew why wounds healed with healing magic, everyone just froze. Magic hit the air and everyone went totally lost, while Maureen stared at the chaos, terrified it happened because she'd used magic. Leon shot back, insisting that even without magic, wounds still heal, and asked whether the princess always patches up wounds with magic. Martina nodded hard, saying she's hardly ever hurt. Leon leaned in and told the princess, "Remember, wounds heal even when you don't use magic. Magic is basically the shortcut, and first she has to crack how natural healing works. If she pulls that off, she'll immediately feel her magic power draining away." So he laid out what he knew about how nature heals, and even with that shaky knowledge, it would choke off magic consumption way harder than going in blind. And every single one of them looks completely lost, like they can't believe what they're seeing. The two girls reluctantly nod like, "Yeah, kinda," and Leon immediately pushes, "Then let's try it, so we really get what's going on." He snatched a knife straight from the king's grip, and he clung to the hope they'd heal his wound fast, then made a tiny cut on his index finger, and ordered Martine to fix it. She'd have to sharpen her image and pour magic into it. The princess shut her eyes, locking in her focus. Before he even cast healing, he zeroed in on his wounds first. To her wild shock, every wound sealed up perfectly, nothing like the healing she'd done before. And yeah, normally she could only pull it off once, but now it feels like she can do it 4 more times. So when it comes to the next round, Catherine's up. She shut her eyes, steadied her power, and healed his wound, then gasped when the same miracle hit again. For now, Leon's hunch feels right, no doubt about it, but he never expected teaching someone from absolute zero to be this brutal. maybe he should slow down, stop pushing for more, and think about Lady Martine too. With that, he wrapped up today's session, and it felt amazing knowing they were genuinely pleased with him. The princess lets out a heavy sigh and tells him to drop the formal act. Then she told him to call her by her name and ditch the sama. Since he's the one teaching, he should just call her Leon. Leon shot her down, saying it was already way too much for her to call him by his given name, and insisted they keep doing things the same way, while Martine just believes, well, I guess it can't be helped. He helped her, but she's still chasing an even deeper connection from here on out. No way. Leon's knees buckled the second that smile hit him. Alexis presses, asking if Leon's imagination goes beyond healing magic, and when Leon says yes, the king wastes no time. He demands Leon teach him fire magic too. And with that, Leon leaned in and explained it to the king just like he'd done for his parents. Then the king tried it himself, and his mind lit up with pure amazement. Magic consumption drops hard, like someone just slammed a door on it, and he clenched his fists. And then he asked Leon if they could spread this method. Leon shut it down, saying he's not ready yet because it could buff their enemies instead, and that makes it way too dangerous. So yeah, someone as trustworthy as they are right now could still use a little heads up on what's coming next. The king nodded and told Leon, finish royal school, and once you do, Alexis will want you to teach him the magic behind this method. Yeah, but only Alexis, and whoever Leon actually trusts. Leon can't promise it's set in stone yet since it's still a long way off, but when the time finally hits, he'll make it happen. The king lit up at the news and ordered everyone to keep it quiet, until that very day, though he basically teased, it sounds far, but it's not as far as you think. Leon heard all that and got totally thrown off because in his mind, enrollment to graduation takes about 5 years, so yeah, to him, that was still a lifetime away. The king finally drops the truth. The royal school runs a graduation exam for every enrolled kid at the end of each winter, so if Leon clears it this next year, he's done, he graduates. Most students crawl through 3 to 4 years, but Leon's heard rumors that some kids manage to finish in just 1 year. He's convinced Leon can graduate in just 1 year. But didn't he seriously overestimate him? So yeah, Alexis can line Leon up with all kinds of new job options, meaning he's got to go all in and give it everything. Then Alexis remembered his wife and Martin's twin brother were dying to thank Leon, and they wanted an introduction first. Would you meet them? They asked, and since they already know what he can do, there's nothing to fear. Leon doesn't mind meeting them at all. He's already soaked up enough thanks from the king, and the king made it clear he should accept it without needing to say a word. That and what he handed Leon couldn't be touched, especially not for Leon's wife, who got downright excited trying to pick it out, after Leon thanked him. And just like that, Alexis thanked him too, and told him to play servant for a minute, because he was about to send for one. After a while, Elizabeth, the very first queen, and Stephen, the first prince, stormed into the scene. After Catherine stepped up and greeted the first queen, Elizabeth snapped at the servant to clear out right after they hauled every last thing in. As soon as the door shut, Leon sprang to his feet, ready to greet the queen and introduce himself. And when he did, the queen's face lit up like she'd finally found the exact person she'd been waiting for. Then she told the two to drop the formalities and grab a seat, while Leon's jaw practically hit the floor staring at the gifts. These are the thank you gifts for saving Martin's life. Grateful to the bone, she bows with all her respect, but Leon panics and demands, raise your head. Then he flashed a respectful smile and said he was honored to serve, gladly accepting the queen's kind words, until the queen lit up, thrilled to hear it. Then it hit him and suddenly, he remembered something. Since everyone, Alexis included, keeps calling him by name, can he finally do the same to her? Stephen's begging for that same respect too, and Leon goes along, totally baffled by why the royal family in this place acts this way. So yeah, Elizabeth is about to pull them in one by one, thanking him with gifts that hit straight from her heart, and she picked every single one herself. Wait, seriously? No way she chose them all like that. He stared at the king, but Alexis snapped her gaze away like she couldn't stand to see him. There's no way the king of the whole country is getting pushed around by his own wife, right? And now, look at this. Leon isn't even getting a second glance. There's no stopping this, so what's he about to do next? After the queen unveiled every gift, the king leaned in and told Catherine that Elizabeth had sent them as a thank you for the magic lessons, then asked her to take them back to the duke's residence. Catherine nodded and promised she'd set up a room for him in the mansion, then stash everything safely away there with care. And just like that, they shut it down for today. See you next week. Back at the Townsend estate, where the tension is still hanging in the air, Leon fires the question at Roger. If every single one of these is that insanely amazing. By the time Leon finally got comfortable with the daily grind of hauling himself to the royal palace for magic lessons. Lady Martine slid him an invitation to a tea party, officially for Lady Elizabeth and Lady Catherine too, but it turns out the real plan is a private get-together just between Lady Martine and him, kept separate from those other ladies. He can't shake the feeling. Why is it only the two of them? There's no way he's backing out of an invitation like that, and before he knows it, the day finally arrives. The princess thanked him for making it here today. She couldn't shake the urge to talk to him, slow, calm, and just the two of them. So she was absolutely glowing today, and Leon felt the same burn of joy, honored to speak in this moment. Martin told him to loosen up so she could inch closer, but she's a princess. And even Leon still gets jittery in a place like the royal palace, but Martin reassures him, don't worry. Because right now nobody's even hearing them, and she's determined to close the distance and get right next to him. He told her when it's just us, don't use honorifics. Leon nodded and asked, so you're my age? The princess grinned and said, yep, same age, then added that he'd be her classmate, and she couldn't wait for him to start school. Leon flashed a grin, sure that when he walked into school, he'd definitely stand out, and not in the good way. At school, he'll stick out like a sore thumb, a commoner with a ducal house behind him. Then, right after graduation, he'll step into the spotlight and prove he's got all the makings of a noble. Tell me, doesn't he always end up standing out? He suggested they stage their very first meeting, with her and Prince Stefan right back at the royal school, and when Martina agreed, she admitted she'd feel swallowed up by loneliness if she couldn't talk to him. So she went all in, making sure they'd get a real chance to know each other immediately. Since enrollment isn't for a while yet, she'll keep mulling it over in the meantime. She just knew he'd clear it with flying colors. He's a walking encyclopedia, and couldn't help but wonder, what was he hiding? She's not trying to drag the truth out of him, but she can see the pain it's putting him through. When he healed her, she tried to ask why he knew so much, but the second the words left her mouth, his face twisted with sadness and pain. Leon's convinced it was real, and even now, the moment he recalls Japan, a wave of heartbreak hits him hard. In his head, those childhood memories of his family and the little bits of Japan he still catches in everyday life hit hard, because once he realizes it, he can't meet them again, not his family, not his friends from then, and he can't even talk to anyone. Martin can't even guess the weight she's forced to carry, but she'll hear him out and take it all in, and if it's meant to stay hidden, she'll never, ever spill it to a soul. That only mattered if he could finally trust her. When Leon heard that, he clenched his jaw and finally told the whole truth. By ripping the truth out of him, he's got memories of living in a totally different world. Far, far away, a whole country waiting somewhere she could never dream of reaching in a lifetime. He wasn't the same man anymore. Something had changed, and it showed. He was born in that country, stayed there until he finally grew up, and then boom, died in an accident. When he finally opened his eyes, boom, he wasn't an adult anymore. He was an 8-year-old Leon in this world, and all the knowledge in his head, he dragged it over from his past life. World, can she even believe this? Martina threw herself into an apology, shocked by something that was way bigger than anything she'd ever imagined. I know this sounds wild, but Leon really does have that kind of memory, doesn't it? So what's the link to using every attribute? That's exactly the question Leon couldn't stop chasing. He's stuck wondering if there's a link out there, but there's no way to ever know for sure. When they questioned whether he really wasn't the apostle, he shot back that he wasn't. He'd never even laid eyes on the goddess. As she told Leon that he had every sign of an apostle, he didn't brush it off. He leaned in and thought, if that's true, the goddess should at least show up. So if he's some kind of freak anomaly in this world, and the goddess finds out, would they erase him on the spot? So he asked her straight up if she planned to publish it, and she snapped back that she wouldn't do. And if there was anything he wanted to say, he could tell her everything. She might not picture it perfectly, but at least she'd listen. He started scrambling for the words he'd say to her, right up until she suggested they cook. He told them the pancakes they just cooked weren't from here at all. They'd come straight from his world. There's a whole universe of stuff he could do, but he hasn't got a clue how to make it all happen. Martin told them, if I know the cooking method and can see the final result, the palace cooks will make it for me. Leon's mind races across this world's ingredients, and then bam, pasta hits him like a craving with purpose. He's still worried they'd grill him about who came up with the idea, but Martin shot back it was all good. She was a princess. When someone asked what she wanted written, she rang the bell and called a servant, and a royal guard rushed in with a pen and paper, while Leon sat there thinking, because ever since he spent more than a year as Leon, it feels like his mind and body finally started syncing up, and somehow he's even started acting like he's regressed in age. So lately, even at 9 years old, he's started feeling weirdly fine, like discomfort just vanished. Lately, he started seeing Martine as cute too, like she's no different from anyone he'd admire from the other side. And it's not just that, because he genuinely respects a bunch of who she is. Back when he was a kid, he'd cooked pasta with his mother, so he only half remembered it, but he still knew the lineup: flour, oil, eggs, and salt. He can't pin it down for sure, but he swears it was around 4 scoops of flour, 1 egg, and a pinch of salt. Then he doubts there was much oil, maybe half a spoonful at most. Then he wrote down the whole procedure: mix the ingredients, knead the dough, shape it, roll it out thin and even, dust it with flour, fold it, and slice it into delicate, even strips. Then he lets the dough rest so it won't dry out before boiling the whole thing in a big pot of salty water. For now, he's aiming for about a 5-minute boil, though the exact time depends on how wide and thick the noodles are. Then he dumps on the sauce. It'll likely come out a little thick and chewy, so a tomato or cream sauce would hit perfectly. And since this season's packed with fresh tomatoes, he's going straight for a tomato sauce. Chop up bacon and chicken, simmer them into a tomato sauce, then toss it all with the pasta. Boom, dinner's ready. It's pretty vague, but I bet a top chef could figure it out and make it work. Then he thrust it into the princess's hands. It was us who told him the next tea party wouldn't just be fun. It'd be a full-on taste test of this dish. A week later, the pasta hit the table, steaming like heaven, and it looked downright irresistible. The princess snapped at him to drop the honorifics and just talk like a normal person. And she can't help wishing that even with people nearby, they could talk like this, like it's just natural. Leon tells her it might be hard right now, but nobody knows what the future's going to unleash. And more than anything, they need to eat, like, right now. Speaking of which, this time the chef was absolutely buzzing about his new recipe. He swore it came out perfect, and that fired Martin up too, because he couldn't wait to try it. This is her first time trying it too. She couldn't wait to share the shock with Leon. And right then they dug in. Leon took the lead, showing her exactly how to eat it, step by step. In one bite, Leon instantly knew this was ridiculously good. It hits your tongue with that sharp tomato zing, but then salt and herbs step in to balance the whole flavor. And yeah, it's totally different from what he's used to, yet somehow it's irresistibly delicious in its own way. The princess couldn't believe how insanely delicious it was, and he just couldn't wrap his head around it. She was actually devouring a dish from his old world. After they finish eating, the princess leans in and asks if he can recreate any other recipes too. He starts racking his brain for dishes he could actually pull off here, and back in the world he came from, but the options are painfully few. The princess told him to do everything he could to remember it, but the truth was, he hadn't built any of it himself, so how was he supposed to? If he'd had seasonings like soy sauce or miso, he'd have cooked up a whole feast in his head, but in the commoner's district, he's never seen a single one, never heard a word about it. Then it hits him. Nobles must be the ones using them. He turns to her and demands to know if this world has any seasonings, like soy sauce or miso. She'd never even heard of them yet, but she swore she'd ask the chef, and her father too. Leon told her they were made from beans, soybeans. Martin suspects the king might know the whole thing, like it's hiding in some far-off country, and if it exists, Leon's determined to get it, no matter how insanely expensive it is. And yeah, he's got his sights set on going to that country. Alright, Martin's gonna bring it up before their next lesson. Then right after a week, the princess hit him with the worst news. Nobody knew anything about it. Chapters stop at 19. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you love this manga. Have a great day.